1141. The Great Mysterious Expedition of the 10,000 Realms. If it weren't for the need for rare natural treasures for further advancement, Sun Erlang would probably have directly leapt to the mid-stage of Foundation establishment. Sun Erlang, however, was quite composed and didn't show any excessive joy. He simply reported the matter to Li Fan. The Great Zon Imperial Guards, as well as the military and civilians of the various realms to be conquered in the future, will all be a source of help for you in cultivating the open black lens bracket sitting immortal art close black lens bracket. Within 5 years, I need you to help me forge a capable and battle-hardened army. Li Fan sat suspended on the open black lens bracket Holy Emperor's throne close black lens bracket, looking at Sun Erlang kneeling below, and said indifferently. As for the necessary items for you to improve your cultivation, you don't need to worry about them. Sun Erlang was excited, his blood boiling, and he responded before withdrawing. He went to train his Imperial Guards. Li Fan then took out a small sky profound mirror and probed it with his divine sense. This sky profound mirror was an unexpected gain from the Tian boat's trip to the profound yellow realm. While the Tian boat was extracting the spiritual energy of the profound yellow realm, a golden core cultivator happened to pass by. It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or this cultivator was exceptionally talented, but he was able to vaguely detect the abnormality of the Tian boat under the cover of the formation. This person thought he had discovered some hidden treasure and excitedly explored around it. As a result, he triggered the Tian boat's defensive formation and was unfortunately captured and suppressed inside the boat. He is currently being held in the Great Zon dungeon, and will be left there for a while. It's a pity, it's just the most ordinary sky profound mirror, without direct item transfer function. Even though he hadn't joined the Myriad Immortals Alliance in this life, even though this sky profound mirror didn't belong to him, Li Fan still had unimpeded access to the sky profound mirror. It was precisely because of the existence of the sky profound mirror's origin. When the Doomsday Plan was launched in the previous life, Li Fan replaced the open double-angle bracket 1000 Machines Jade Ring Golden Chapter close double-angle bracket with the Sky Profound Mirror origin through a blank anchor point. On the still real panel, it became open black lens bracket Sky Profound Mirror origin remnant close black lens bracket. The Sky Profound Mirror didn't seem to notice this inexplicable extra origin in the world. And in this life, as the true owner of this origin, when Li Fan came to the Sky Profound Mirror again, he felt different from the previous life. In the previous life, the Sky Profound Mirror origin was given by the Sky Profound Mirror's human avatar. Although it did have various permissions exclusive to the Sky Profound Mirror, its foundation and source of permissions still belonged to the Sky Profound Mirror itself. If the Sky Profound Mirror was willing, it could take back the given origin and invalidate the permissions at any time. But in this life, Li Fan wandered through the countless pieces of information in the Sky Profound Mirror and felt true open black lens bracket freedom close black lens bracket. He had completely independent permissions. He could even do things that the Sky Profound Mirror couldn't do. For example, deleting certain transaction data. Perhaps influenced by the Profound Heaven King's refining, the Sky Profound Mirror couldn't perform forgery, deception, or other behaviors. In order to maintain the stable operation of the Immortal Alliance, all data in the Sky Profound Mirror couldn't be deleted and was traceable. Mo Rubin's behavior of deducing the Profound Heaven King's whereabouts through the Sky Profound Mirror in the previous life was eventually discovered by the Myriad Immortals Alliance. This wasn't the Sky Profound Mirror's betrayal, but its own characteristics. But now, with the blessing of this newly emerged source power, Li Fan could do this. He erased the original owner's information from this Sky Profound Mirror, and then registered a brand new blank identity for himself. By selling key information, he earned tens of thousands of contribution points in a short period of time. Then, using this as capital, he traded at high frequencies. In just half a month, the contribution points in Li Fan's account ballooned to hundreds of thousands. He purchased the required materials on a large scale. He set the agreed transaction location on the sea near the Great Zon exit. Li Fan remotely controlled the Tian boat to retrieve the items. Although it seemed troublesome, Li Fan handled it with ease. He bought all the materials needed for the Great Zon Imperial Guards to advance. Without the constraints of the natural treasures, the strength of the Great Zon Imperial Guards ushered in its first surge. Foundation establishment stage cultivators appeared one after another, and Sun Erlang, as the leader of the group, also rose to the late stage of Foundation establishment in a short period of time. He was even stronger than Li Fan at this point. However, with the blessing of the great Zan's national fortune, he was no match for Li Fan even for a single exchange. Sun Erlang's cultivation had improved too quickly, so Li Fan ordered him to suppress his strength for the time being. And taught him the supreme sex open black lens bracket calamity body close black lens bracket method, storing all the excess feedback cultivation. Anchored for 3 years, the Great Zan Imperial Guards already had 56 foundation establishment cultivators and 842 qi refining cultivators. On this day, Li Fan lectured on the Tao above Xuanjing City. His image spread throughout the world through the Holy Emperor's throne. As Li Fan's words seemed to contain endless Tao, various visions appeared on the Great Zan sky. Celestial flowers fell, accompanied by countless golden dragons flying. The heaven and earth furnaces that had previously been sealed by Li Fan with formations began to emit the spiritual energy they had produced over the past 3 years to the surrounding area. Even mortals could feel this wonderful change happening in the world at this moment. Not to mention the cultivators in Xuanjing. Among the 56 foundation establishment cultivators, 3 directly felt something and advanced to the golden core stage. Sun Erlang was naturally among them. However, it was purely a matter of realm improvement. In terms of actual combat power, it was still far inferior to ordinary Myriad Immortals Alliance cultivators. But for Li Fan, it was already enough. Li Fan didn't expect them to kill enemies personally, he only needed them to act as spiritual power-filling machines for the operation of the formation. He taught the formation to Sun Erlang and ordered the Great Zan Imperial Guards to practice day and night, and to ensure seamless cooperation. Great Zan's strength increased day by day. Anchored for 5 years, Great Zan, which had been accumulating power for a long time, finally began its first battle of conquest. The target was the Spirit Wood realm, which Li Fan was very familiar with. Since there were no Tao integration cultivators, the entrance to the Spirit Wood realm couldn't be directly changed to Great Zan. So this time the route of conquest was to borrow the Profound Yellow realm and then attack the Spirit Wood realm. In order to avoid being detected by the Myriad Immortals Alliance, the expedition team consisted of only 50 cultivators led by Sun Erlang. Riding the Tian boat, they quietly arrived in the Spirit Wood realm. When they saw the towering giant tree in the world, all the Great Zan Imperial Guards couldn't help but lose their minds slightly. However, years of harsh training quickly made them concentrate their minds. The formation was instantly deployed, and a trail of afterimages screamed towards the Spirit Wood. It was the Sky Patrol Arrow. The Sky Patrol Arrow's flying attack naturally aroused the anger of the tree ant race. They wanted to stop it. But even the tree ant elders with nascent soul strength were as fragile as paper in front of the Sky Patrol Arrow. Screams rang out continuously, and the tree ants piled up their lives, but couldn't stop the Sky Patrol Arrow from finally landing in the Spirit Wood. Boom! A terrifying hole was pierced through the center of the Spirit Wood. The constantly beating heart of the Spirit Wood was faintly visible. Sun Erlang, wearing black gold armor, flew forward. Before him, a full 90 Sky Patrol arrows surrounded him. Submit, or die. 1142. The changes in the furnace of creation. Of the 90 Sky Patrol arrows, only half were actual physical objects capable of inflicting damage. As for the remaining half, they were virtual illusions created by formations, possessing only the appearance of power. However, the tree ants of the Spirit Wood world had already been terrified by the destructive power displayed by the previous Sky Patrol arrow, and were completely unable to distinguish between truth and falsehood. The central giant tree was inextricably linked to the Spirit Wood world. When the tree flourishes, the world prospers; when the tree is destroyed, the world perishes. The huge hole in the trunk of the giant tree extinguished any thought of resistance in the minds of the Spirit Wood world's tree ant race. Led by their female chieftain, the entire tree ant race knelt in humiliation before the Great Zan Forbidden Army, expressing their submission. Thereafter, Sun Erlang, following the instructions of the Celestial Destiny Holy Emperor, engraved layers of formations onto the giant tree's heart. He did not know the meaning of these formations, but executing orders was the duty of the Great Zan Forbidden Army. With Sun Erlang's current Golden Core completion stage strength, activating the formation was still somewhat strenuous. He also had to guard against a counterattack from the tree ant race. Fortunately, the deterrent power of the Sky Patrol arrows was too great, and in the end, the tree ant race did not dare to fight to the death. Once the formation was complete, a burst of dazzling green light erupted from the giant tree's heart. The spirit tree's wound began to slowly heal, and a figure was born from the light and shadow. The spirit of the giant tree. Sun Erlang mused. As he had expected, after the spirit of the giant tree appeared, it did not stand with the tree ants. Instead, it communicated with Sun Erlang through telepathy. Are you senior brother Sun? The teacher asked you to leave half of the Forbidden Army here to assist in constructing the formation. Oh, right, my name is Lin Ling. Lin Ling transmitted a segment of image, and Sun Erlang nodded slightly upon hearing the familiar voice of the Celestial Destiny Holy Emperor in the picture. Without losing a single soldier, and only consuming one Sky Patrol arrow, Sun Erlang successfully conquered the Spirit Wood world. However, Sun Erlang also knew that this had nothing to do with the combat power of the Great Zon Forbidden Army. It all relied on the terrifying power of the Sky Patrol arrows, which could be described as world-destroying. Sun Erlang shook his head slightly, dispelling the frustration in his heart. He led the remaining troops towards the second target, a small world. Great League, HMPH. A trace of killing intent flashed in Sun Erlang's eyes. After the Great Zon Forbidden Army left, Lin Ling, following the formations taught by Li Fan, began to supervise the tree ant race. Lin Ling did not have much affection for these tree ants. On the contrary, Li Fan, who lectured, taught, and enlightened her at the moment of her birth, was the person Lin Ling felt closest to in the world. The myriad spirits' grand formation of heaven and earth. On the day the formation is completed, it will be able to open a passage to the world where the teacher is. And it can also increase the overall concentration of spiritual energy in the Spirit Wood world, sublimating the world. First complete the construction of the basic formation, the remaining key materials will be sent over by the Great Zon Forbidden Army. Thinking of the formation instructions taught by Li Fan, and recalling the promise the other party made, that only if she completed the construction of the myriad spirits' grand formation of heaven and earth, would she be able to go to the Great Zon, Lin Ling couldn't help but feel motivated and once again urged those dull tree ants. Great Zon. Sensing the somewhat blurry images transmitted from the Spirit Wood world, Li Fan nodded secretly. Although in this life he planned to return to truth in the netherworld, using the power of darkness to weaken the perception of the faceless true immortal. But Li Fan could not predict how much this weakening would be. Therefore, the myriad spirits of heaven and earth, refining gods with all living beings, grand formation was also necessary to build, in case of unforeseen circumstances. If Li Fan's psychology was still somewhat fluctuating the first time he saw the scene of billions of creatures falling at the same time. Then the second time, the third time after. Li Fan really didn't have any psychological pressure anymore. He restrained his mind and looked at his nominal second disciple in this life. Wang Xuanba. Unlike Sun Erlang's treatment, Li Fan did not teach him the new cultivation method. Instead, he taught Wang Xuanba the creation furnace art that he had researched. This version has undergone earth-shaking changes compared to the original version, which simply leveraged the human body's secret treasures and brutally strengthened the physical body. In the previous life, after obtaining guidance from the heavenly physician and integrating the open double angle bracket heavenly physician immortal scripture close double angle bracket and open double angle bracket mending heaven record close double angle bracket, Li Fan had a new understanding of how to stimulate human potential. However, to turn theory into practice, it was still necessary to experiment. Wang Xuanba's special physique was the perfect experimental subject. When the Xuanwang world is about to be destroyed, it bursts out with thousands of mysterious and strange changes in an instant. Humans should also be like this. In a normal state, the human body is in a state of balance. Only when foreign objects invade and the body is subjected to a fatal crisis will it mobilize its own potential. In front of Li Fan, Wang Xuanba, who was only 17 years old, was sleeping with his eyes closed. His height had actually approached 3 zhong, his muscles all over his body were bulging, and the surface of his skin was covered with a layer of golden, armor-like keratin. Although it was still possible to vaguely distinguish human features, at first glance, he looked like an ancient beast. 18 kinds of alien beast flesh have been implanted, of which only 7 have been fused and absorbed by him. The rest have all had serious rejection reactions. If I hadn't taken action to save him, I'm afraid he would have died of bloodline exhaustion by now. However, as his physique becomes stronger, perhaps he can try again. Thinking this way, Li Fan injected a mass of alien beast heavenly silk fox's flesh into Wang Xuanba's body. Blindly strengthening strength seemed to have caused Wang Xuanba's physical body to develop somewhat unbalanced and face collapse. He needed to strengthen his agility. Li Fan really wanted to see where the limit of the human physical body was. Li world. The conquest of Great Li was even easier than that of the Spirit Wood world. Without even using the Sky Patrol arrows, just the group of Great Zon Forbidden Army flying in the air caused the Emperor and civil and military officials in the capital to kneel on the ground. Adhering to the principle that there was only one Emperor, the Celestial Destiny Holy Emperor, Sun Erlang mercilessly executed the Great Li Emperor. Then, he selected Xiao Tianyu, the Prince of Zhenan, as his proxy. As the Holy Emperor's seat appeared in various places in Great Li, people quickly accepted the fact that the dynasty had changed in an instant. And the existence of the Celestial Destiny Holy Emperor. Great Li also gradually began to transform into a spirit energy small world. Anchoring year 8, 85%. Compared to before, it's actually a bit slower. Is it because of my current physical state? Li Fan looked at the numbers on the Returning to Truth panel and fell into deep thought. In 3 years, as many small worlds such as Spirit Wood, Beast Seeds, and Li World were incorporated into the Great Zon territory, his Celestial Emperor Chi Canon also successfully advanced to the 3rd level. The Great Zon's luck was like the rising sun, emitting a fiery red light and vigorous vitality. And his actual combat power that he could display was also equivalent to the early stage of the transformation god realm of the Xuanwang world. However, he had already felt the bottleneck of the Celestial Emperor Chi Canon. Wanting to advance to the 4th level, the Purple Chi realm. According to the current rate of development, I'm afraid it will take several decades to even think about it. 1143. The Power of Faith in Darkness. To achieve the highest level of the Celestial Emperor's Chi Codex, and become an unparalleled emperor comparable to a powerhouse in the Eternal Life realm, Li Fan estimated that he would need to build a vast dynasty covering the entire Xuanwang Great World. HMPH, if I had that kind of strength, why would I even bother practicing the Celestial Emperor's Chi Codex? However, since it was only a temporary measure to anchor himself, Li Fan didn't have high expectations for it. In fact, his goal had already been achieved. With the increasing prosperity of the Great Zon dynasty, the bizarre phenomenon of his body intermittently disappearing had almost completely ceased. Even the face he had once lost was showing signs of reappearing. The faceless true immortal, his power seems to be severing all connections with the world. And I, as the heaven-ordained Saint Emperor of the Great Zon, with the lives of hundreds of millions of beings tied to me, have somehow influenced the power of the true immortal's web. Li Fan carefully savored the entanglement of these two forces within himself, and suddenly had an epiphany. The correct way to use the myriad spirit's grand formation might not be simple obstruction, but to treat the lingering thoughts of those hundreds of millions of beings like a pot of dog blood, and splash it over. In simpler terms, it's to forcibly link those hundreds of millions of lingering thoughts with the faceless true immortal. For example, to make those who died unjustly believe that the faceless true immortal is the culprit. Li Fan's thoughts raced, and after some deduction with the Doomsday Dissolution Disc, he quickly made some minor adjustments to the myriad spirit's grand formation. Then, he summoned Lin Ling. Master. Soon, Lin Ling, clad in armor and looking valiant, appeared before Li Fan. Unlike her experiences in the previous life, Lin Ling in this life had always shouldered the responsibility of leading the Great Zon Forbidden Army to conquer myriad realms since awakening her consciousness. She traveled everywhere, and especially under Li Fan's instructions, had not contacted the Earth Vein Ancient Tree. Her temperament had also become as bold and uninhibited as someone in the military. After Li Fan told her the subtle modifications to the myriad spirit's grand formation, Lin Ling was about to leave to carry out the task, but suddenly remembered something. Li Fan looked at Lin Ling. Master, during my flight in the Xuanwang world, a thought discovered me and has been trying to communicate with me. Is it the Earth Vein Ancient Tree? Li Fan frowned slightly. No, but it's very similar, Lin Ling replied truthfully. Seeing Li Fan's expression, she quickly added, however, I have always followed your teachings and ignored it. That thought was crazy and didn't even say who it was. It just wanted me to go see it. As soon as Li Fan heard this, he immediately understood. He just didn't know why Ruimu would discover Lin Ling's whereabouts. After inquiring about the location of the encounter in detail, Li Fan designed a set of formations for Lin Ling to shield her from external perception. Only then did he send her away. After thinking about it, the main task in this life was still to get rid of the influence of the faceless true immortal. Li Fan simply noted the time and location of Ruimu's appearance this time and did not intend to contact it further. When the time is right, I can give the Earth Vein Ancient Tree a surprise. Li Fan snorted coldly. With a flicker of his figure, Li Fan arrived at the secret chamber beneath the Saint Emperor's throne. It was pitch black here, and more than a dozen Netherworld race members were imprisoned. After the Great Zan initially gained combat power, Li Fan ordered Sun Erlang and Wang Xuanba to launch an attack on the Netherworld race. Even with the assistance of the sky patrolling arrows, the results were mixed. The Great Zan Forbidden Army suffered hundreds of casualties, but they also captured some Netherworld race members alive. After some persuasion, they recognized reality and agreed to open a passage to the Netherworld for Li Fan. But the core formation was not yet complete, so Li Fan was not in a hurry to enter. When these Netherworld race members saw Li Fan coming, they hurriedly knelt on the ground. Li Fan stood still, sensing a statue of himself not far away in the darkness. After becoming the heaven-ordained Saint Emperor of the Great Zan, Li Fan had also wanted to reproduce a power similar to the origin essence. Since it was somewhat similar to the power of faith, Li Fan ordered the construction and erection of his statues in various places, hoping to achieve the condensation of origin essence through the sheer number of the population. But it was clear that he was a little naive. Although the origin essence was a being abandoned by the true immortals, it was vaguely one level higher than ordinary spiritual power. Without special means, it was clear that it was impossible to gather and refine it solely through the pure collective prayers of mortals. But things changed after these Netherworld race members were captured. Perhaps it was because these Netherworld race members had an extremely strong innate faith in the Netherworld. Almost the moment they surrendered, Li Fan vaguely sensed a strange aura appearing within him. It was as scarlet as the national fortune of the Great Zan dynasty, and the feeling it gave Li Fan was extremely similar to the golden origin essence of the compassionate immortal of the mortal world in his previous life. Later, Li Fan simply moved a statue of himself into this dungeon and ordered these dozen Netherworld race members to pray day and night. The effect was also very significant. The origin essence produced by these Netherworld race members was actually more than that produced by hundreds of millions of citizens of the Great Zan combined. Li Fan studied their prayer methods and had the Great Zan Forbidden Army learn and imitate them. But without exception, they all failed. After thinking about it, Li Fan could only attribute it to the special physique of the Netherworld race. It seems that it is still related to the power of darkness in the Netherworld. King Zan. The Netherworld, which can interfere with the true immortal's web to a certain extent, clearly still hides many secrets. But this is not something that can be explored in this life. It's a pity that the reproductive ability of the Netherworld race is not very strong either. Otherwise, without the faceless true immortal stone statue, I could also weave a network of faith. That kind of ability to arbitrarily grant, deprive, and even transmit remotely was too powerful and convenient. Having tasted its benefits, Li Fan naturally found it difficult to leave it. Therefore, even though he was not far from core formation, Li Fan still did not give up on the research of this power. It was clear that Li Fan did not have the talent in this area. I'll just have to wait until it's completely safe and let those guys study it. Li Fan sighed slightly. Great Saint Emperor. Just then, one of the Netherworld race members who was kowtowing and praying suddenly trembled and made a sound, as if he had something to say. Li Fan immediately became interested. This was the first time they had actively tried to communicate with Li Fan. After receiving Li Fan's permission, the Netherworld race member continued tremulously. During the process of praying, I discovered that the master I originally served. He cautiously glanced at Li Fan. That is, the Netherworld doesn't seem to be very angry about our betrayal. He swallowed his saliva. The ancestral precepts of the clan for generations have all said that we must not betray the darkness. Otherwise, we will definitely be punished by the gods. But I have now tried it, and it is simply nonsense. 1144. The changes of the successor to the god. This seemingly young Nether race member, trembling, explained to Li Fan while occasionally peeking at Li Fan's expression. But how could his crude self possibly fathom the countenance of the heavens mandate holy emperor? Growing more fearful in his heart, he recounted all his discoveries during this time. Your Majesty, please understand, after submitting, this lowly one has absolutely no divided loyalties. However, praying to the nether darkness has become an instinct as natural as breathing. Therefore, during this time, while praying to your Majesty, I inevitably and naturally beseech the nether darkness. The nether darkness, just like before, responded to me. Upon saying this, the dozen or so nether race members in the secret chamber all knelt down in utter fear. Clearly, this phenomenon had occurred to all of them. Li Fan gently waved his hand, helping them all up. Regarding these nether race members serving two masters, Li Fan in this life didn't really care. Because in his estimation, these people were merely tools for him to research the power of faith in this extremely short period before returning to truth. Once he initiated returning to truth soon, everything in the Xuanwang realm would be annihilated. Let alone these nether race members. He was more curious as to why the nether darkness would also tolerate such duplicitous behavior. If a believer of a faceless true immortal dared to serve two masters, they would probably have been torn to shreds by the true immortal's power long ago. Either the power behind the nether darkness is unbelievably noble, able to tolerate its believers to such an extent. Or else, Li Fan's heart instantly surged with emotions, it has other plans. It wants to use the believer's betrayal to infect beings of the same level as itself. Thinking of this, Li Fan immediately became vigilant. He had always been inclined to speculate about the powerful beings in this world with the greatest malice. He carefully discerned the traces of red power within his body, which, although not abundant, were extremely potent. But after repeated confirmation, he indeed found no signs of connection with the power of the nether darkness. Could it be that I'm overthinking things? After a brief moment of contemplation, Li Fan made a decision. He would not allow any variables to affect the process of returning to truth in this life. First, he verbally praised the nether race members for their candor. After leaving the underground secret chamber, Li Fan ordered Wang Xuanba to grant them peaceful slumber. Not a euphemism, but a true, meaningful slumber. Li Fan was unwilling to be contaminated by this impure power of faith again, and he was worried that directly slaughtering the nether race members might attract the attention of the nether darkness's master. So he simply turned them into living dead. It seems I need to think of a way to solve the nether race's fertility problem. Cultivating believers needs to start with the new generation. Wang Xuanba quickly completed the task and returned to report to Li Fan. After constantly devouring and merging with the organizations of strange beasts over the years, and with the enhanced version of the creation furnace art, Wang Xuanba had transformed from a three-jong giant back to a normal human size. Although he still looked somewhat burly and robust. Possessing the abilities of many strange beasts, coupled with an extremely terrifying physical self-healing speed, even Sun Erlang, who was at the perfection of the Golden Core stage, was no match for Wang Xuanba in a deathmatch. Xuanba, have you felt any confusion or incomprehension during your recent cultivation? Li Fan asked. It was both to resolve Wang Xuanba's doubts and to understand the state of his body, intending to improve the creation furnace art. Master, recently, my body has indeed become stronger and stronger, as if I have inexhaustible strength at every moment. But, Wang Xuanba organized his words and scratched his head, two feelings have slowly arisen in my heart. One is an inexplicable sense of crisis, as if there is some kind of natural enemy in the world. This feeling is especially strong when passing through the Xuanwang realm. The second is the occasional whispers. I can't understand what they're saying, but they give me a sense of familiarity and closeness. After listening, Li Fan said calmly, although you have now achieved a body like a furnace, your intent has not. The miscellaneous thoughts belonging to the strange beasts you devoured still linger in your heart. Stop cultivating for now and go recuperate. Li Fan naturally knew the reason for Wang Xuanba's physical abnormalities, but he did not say it explicitly. He simply let him recuperate in the Great Zon small world. As the recharge deadline for returning to truth drew closer, Li Fan needed to eliminate all unstable factors. Therefore, under his will, the Great Zon's pace of conquering the realms also came to a halt. Under the beautiful name of rest and recuperation, preparing for the enemy. The Great Zon's military and civilians praised the heavens mandate Holy Emperor for his greatness and benevolence, and time flew by. At the end of the 8th year of anchoring, Li Fan, looking at the 100% recharge progress bar, resolutely rose from the Holy Emperor's seat in Xuanjing. Without alarming anyone else, he quietly came to the underground secret chamber. He woke up the slumbering nether race members and opened the passage to the nether realm. Deep within the sea of nether darkness, Li Fan opened the Returning to Truth panel. Open black lens bracket. You can choose one of the following options to retain. 1. An item you possess in this simulation. 2. Your cultivation realm in this simulation. 3. The simulation memory of a person closely related to you. This memory can be inherited by that person. 4. Give up the above options to speed up the charging progress. Close black lens bracket. The constantly flashing light symbols had been present for 8 years. Inherit cultivation base. Li Fan silently chanted, while also raising his vigilance to the highest level. At the same time, in the Great Zon, the Li realm, the Beast Seed, and the skies of the small worlds conquered over the years, silver lines, both vertical and horizontal, suddenly lit up. Like a giant net, it enveloped all living beings. Not many of the beings within the net were able to detect the impending fatal crisis, and some even looked up at the sky in surprise. Only those, strong individuals, with some cultivation vaguely felt uneasy in their hearts. The eternally unchanging sea of nether darkness seemed to suddenly stir up an invisible wave. A surge like a gale descended upon Li Fan, causing a violent storm to erupt around him. Foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul. Earth-shattering changes suddenly occurred within Li Fan's body. Li Fan saw his cloud-like returning to truth Tao foundation instantly turn into a golden core. Then, in an explosion that devoured all light, it evolved into a 5 elements cave heaven. In an instant, the cave heaven completed the evolution that would normally take millions of years to achieve. The majestic 5 elements, a spectacular sight. Afterward, the boundaries between the 5 elements became blurred. All sorts of changes unfolded in the cave heaven in quick succession. The Xuanwang world-destroying change. The unity of the 5 elements, all the changes in the newly born cave heaven, were to cope with the world-destroying crisis that did not exist in this world. The towering tree in the original wood element cave heaven had its leaves fall, leaving only bare branches. But it gradually became like gold and iron. 1145. 6 generations of immortal power. The boundless sea of the water attribute grotto heaven began to freeze for tens of thousands of miles. In the scorching fire attribute grotto heaven, the flames dimmed. But they did not extinguish. Instead, they continuously contracted and condensed, transforming into strange, free-floating flames. All sorts of incredible changes occurred in succession on Li Fan's body. And his realm also broke through the nascent soul stage, advancing rapidly in the Transformation God realm. Transformation God early stage, Transformation God mid stage, Transformation God late stage. It only stopped when he reached the Transformation God completion stage. Powerful, full of vitality, full of aggressiveness. This was Li Fan's feeling about himself at this moment. But Li Fan had no time to savor all of this. As he expected, his rapid transformation within the true immortal net had already attracted the attention of the faceless true immortal outside the high wall. The surroundings seemed less dark, and instead, there were scattered points of light appearing. It seemed as if waves were constantly rising and falling, and the silent, dark sea had uninvited guests arriving. Return to reality, Li Fan said decisively. The surrounding scenery froze. Then quickly turned into mist. Perhaps it was because the faceless true immortal did not fully investigate the anomaly in the net, or perhaps the sea of darkness shielded most of the faceless true immortal's power. In short, this return to reality process was very smooth. The illusory white mist did not last long before it suddenly dissipated. Light reappeared, anchored to Year 1, Dissolution Mountain Peak. Safe return, proving that my method is feasible. Li Fan breathed a sigh of relief, ignoring the return to reality notification for now. He carefully examined his face. The influence of the faceless true immortal's power, after another return to reality, had indeed weakened to some extent. Li Fan's face was no longer smooth and empty. Instead, the images of some facial features were slightly raised. However, this appearance looked even more terrifying than pure facelessness. Li Fan didn't care. Next, I just need to repeat the process. He headed towards the Great Zon capital city with practiced ease. Next, what happened in Great Zon and the other small worlds was almost exactly the same as in the previous life, the 120th life. The only possible difference was that Li Fan was more skilled and eliminated many exploratory steps. To be on the safe side, Li Fan did not create any unnecessary complications, and even stopped the research on the use of the Nether clan's power of faith. Minimizing all variables. In the 121st life, the charging progress of return to reality was a little faster. Completing the charge 3 months ahead of schedule. Hiding in the sea of darkness, inheriting cultivation, and returning to reality. All in one go. Next, the 122nd life, the 123rd life. Until the 125th life. In the early 8th year of anchoring, Li Fan came to the sea of darkness again. He had a premonition that after this return to reality, he would completely get rid of the influence of the faceless true immortal. Now his face was no different from a normal person. But he still perceived some defects that could not be distinguished by the naked eye or divine sense. The influence of the true immortal net still existed. But it was fragile and easily broken. Li Fan suppressed the urge to seek death in his heart. He took a deep breath and silently recited in his heart. Return to reality. The scene changed between reality and illusion in an instant. The mist condensed and then quickly dissipated. 126th life, anchored to year 1, Dissolution Mountain. A feeling completely different from the previous lives appeared in Li Fan's heart. It was freedom without restraint, true freedom. Long confined in a cage, I have regained my freedom. Li Fan murmured softly and slowly walked to the edge of the cliff. Profound yellow realm, I'm back. Facing the boundless sea of clouds, Li Fan chose to inherit his cultivation. Above Great Zon, the wind and clouds suddenly changed. The entire world seemed unable to withstand the pressure, making a creaking sound as if it was overburdened. However, this change was only momentary. The vast aura on Li Fan's body quickly subsided and dissipated. The sky returned to normal. Transformation God completion, the Great Zon world is already a little struggling to bear it. If I were to reach the Tao integration completion stage, I'm afraid that the world would be torn apart at the moment of inheriting my cultivation. But it doesn't matter, I can go to the profound yellow realm to inherit my cultivation at that time. Or I can upgrade the Great Zon world first. Li Fan shook his head slightly, then shifted his thoughts to the plan for this life. In this life, I will remain behind the scenes. I will never take action unless it is absolutely necessary. Everything else is just incidental, just to verify my previous guess. Li Fan narrowed his eyes, looking into the distance, as if he saw the sky of the profound yellow great world. What is the relationship between the transmission of the Tao and the celestial healer? Leaving aside the argument that the transmission of the Tao and the celestial healer have never appeared at the same time. The reason why Li Fan suspected the relationship between the two was because of the open double angle bracket celestial patching manual close double angle bracket passed down by the celestial healer. At the end of the open double angle bracket celestial patching manual close double angle bracket, it described a method of healing the heavens that only existed in theory. That is, reincarnation through borrowed shell, born anew after destruction. The world, even the most powerful cultivation world, is like a living being, with its own end of life. When a world inevitably heads towards decline and decay, no matter how brilliant the medical skills are, it is impossible to turn the tide. One can only watch it perish. This is the normal, theoretical situation. However, the celestial healer proposed a possibility to save the world. That is to find another cultivation world that is still in its prime and carry out the act of seizing the body. The heavenly Tao changes hands, and the world turns upside down. Although it seems so absurd and unbelievable, it may not be impossible for the celestial healer to do it. And, since stepping into the profound yellow realm, the scenes he had seen flashed through Li Fan's mind. The various phenomena that the open double angle bracket celestial patching manual close double angle bracket predicted would occur during the world's reincarnation through borrowed shell are too similar to the current situation of the profound yellow realm. Strange events occur frequently, and the heavenly Tao changes suddenly. More importantly, the celestial healer is from the celestial law realm, but he attaches so much importance to the profound yellow realm. He desperately wanders in the dark star sea, picking up fragments of other worlds. In addition to the celestial healer's various actions and words before, Li Fan's eyes flickered. The accuracy of the celestial healer's celestial patching plan is almost certain. The only thing that is terrifying to think about is the attitude of the transmission of the Tao. If he clearly knows that the celestial healer is from another world and wants to use the profound yellow realm to revive through a borrowed corpse, but the transmission of the Tao has never stopped him from beginning to end. On the contrary, like the celestial healer, he is also going out to collect world fragments in the star sea. Quote. Li Fan couldn't help but feel a little heavy in his heart. Either, apart from this, the transmission of the Tao has no better way to save the profound yellow realm and is forced to do so. Or, the transmission of the Tao and the celestial healer are actually the same person. Or rather, the transmission of the Tao is the celestial healer's clone. A gleam flashed in Li Fan's eyes. In the profound yellow realm, there is a question in the hearts of countless cultivators. Why doesn't the transmission of the Tao leave a clone behind while traveling outside the heavens? As long as there is a clone, it is enough to suppress all the villains in profound yellow. 1146. The Mystery of the Heavenly Doctor's Law Combined Chapters. If Celestial Venerable Xuanfa had an avatar suppressing Xuanwang, there would be no possibility of a large-scale war between the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Old Ones Association. Perhaps, the Five Old Ones Association is a tool deliberately condoned by Xuanfa to maintain the delicate balance of the Xuanwang realm. Xuanfa probably doesn't care about their war, and may even be happy to see it. However, there are too many hidden demons and monsters in the Xuanwang realm, and the immortal ruins are also looming in the distance. In a situation where the Xuanwang realm can be destroyed at any moment, it would undoubtedly be more appropriate to leave an avatar in the Xuanwang realm. However, Celestial Venerable Xuanfa, who regards the Xuanwang realm as a treasure, did not do so. In Li Fan's two experiences of destroying the world, Xuanfa arrived late from beyond the sky once, issuing an impotent roar. The other time, he simply didn't appear at all, only Celestial Healer showed up. This seems very strange. Is it difficult for Xuanfa to refine an avatar? Although avatar techniques are rare in the Xuanwang realm, Li Fan has repeatedly stirred up trouble through avatar techniques. What's more, what about this ancestor of the new law? He could easily do it, but he just doesn't. In fact, although the cultivators of the Xuanwang realm dare not discuss openly why Celestial Venerable Xuanfa does not leave an avatar to suppress the realm, they have many private speculations. It's nothing more than Xuanfa has transcended the mundane and no longer cares so much about everything in the Xuanwang realm. Obviously, they neither understand the Xuanwang realm nor Celestial Venerable Xuanfa. In Li Fan's view, if Celestial Venerable Xuanfa is himself an avatar, then everything becomes logical. It's not that he doesn't want to, but that he really can't. In his 119th life, the strength of the avatar Li Qing was infinitely close to the main body, reaching the peak of the nascent soul stage. It was only one step away from surpassing the main body. At that time, Li Fan had a question in his mind: can the strength of the avatar surpass the main body? Later, with the help of the Tianquan Mirror's source authority and after consulting various books, Li Fan had some understanding. The avatar's strength surpasses the main body, and the avatar refines another avatar. The latter should be more difficult to achieve. Because if an avatar can also refine its own avatar, then it can be infinitely extended. The final outcome is that there is only one person in the entire world. It is not absolutely impossible, but it has transcended the limits of mortal law. In comparison, it is easier for the avatar's strength to surpass the main body. Celestial Healer, Xuanfa. Two faces appeared in Li Fan's mind one after another, and he suddenly remembered that when he first entered the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, he saw the statue of Celestial Venerable Xuanfa in the illusion. At that time, his body's instinct gave an automatic warning due to some kind of familiarity. And before that, the only existence above the Tao integration stage in the Xuanwang realm that he had seen was Celestial Healer. Although the faces are not the same, there is a subtle resemblance between them. There is a trace of Celestial Venerable Xuanfa's aura remaining in the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Cultivators who go there for the first time will feel it and have hallucinations. What my main body saw was the statue of Celestial Venerable Xuanfa, while the avatar Li Qing saw was the stone of transformation emitted a faint white light, faithfully reproducing the recorded image at that time. In a blurred ball of light, several figures stood. Intermittent conversations came from within. How confident are you in this trip? Do my best and leave the rest to fate. That doesn't sound like something you would say. The strength is too disparate, I can only risk my life. Forget it, go ahead. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Li Fan also recalled the scene he saw in his chaotic consciousness when he treated the vast sea in his 119th life. Celestial Venerable Healer has been gone for a long time, I don't know if things will work out. The turtle snake Tai, who was only the size of an ordinary turtle under Vast Sea's seat, said sullenly as Vast Sea sat on the main hall of the sect. Celestial Venerable Healer said before leaving that there is at least a 90% chance of success. You and I should have some confidence in him. Unlike Tai's sad face, Vast Sea seemed very relaxed, comforting him with a smile. Li Fan stroked his chin. Under the premise of the hypothesis that Celestial Venerable Xuanfa is an avatar of Celestial Healer, all kinds of fragmented clues obtained in the past were instantly connected. Li Fan reread his past memories. Sure enough, he found more clues. Yin Yin Island. Shangren Yin pointed to his two treasured human skeletons, approached Li Fan, and said in an extremely low voice, "These two people are not the same kind of people." Not the same kind of people? Li Fan was stunned. What do you mean? Shangren Yin gestured for a while, thought for a while, and seemed unable to think of suitable words to describe it. After struggling for a long time, he suddenly clenched his fist, his face full of entanglement. It's just a feeling, you know what I mean, right? Obviously they are all human, but these two humans lived in different eras and in different regions. Maybe they look almost the same, and they were all dug out by me from the bottom of the Konyan Sea, but there is a very special boundary that marks the difference between these two corpses. Shangren Yin spoke mysteriously, and said for a long time but could not say anything specific. During the second simulation of Tianyang's eternal remembrance. In order to get rid of Tianyang's weak body as much as possible and recover from the coma as soon as possible, Li Fan studied the celestial healer's immortal scripture and prescribed a prescription for himself, instructing his senior brother to refine it. It was indeed effective, but later when he woke up, his second senior brother Ling Xiao said to him like this. Junior brother, speaking of which, you are lucky. In the prescription you gave, there are several medicinal materials that I have never heard of. We asked all the surrounding markets, but no one sold them. Some people even said that these kinds of medicines do not exist in the cultivation world at all. I don't believe it. How is it possible that in a prescription, all the other medicinal materials are available, but these few are non-existent? I argued with them on the spot and quarreled with them. Fortunately, a disciple of the Medicine King sect passed by at this time. Hearing our quarrel, he asked us about the specific prescription out of curiosity. Then, according to the pharmacology, he chose several common herbs as substitutes for us. Junior brother, you were able to drink this medicine. When he met Immortal Venerable Jicheng and obtained the reward of the Jinfa Jade token. Immortal Venerable Jicheng pointed to a azure cloud willow in his yard and asked him, Han Yi and Examen Yu if they knew the details of this tree. Han Yi and Examen Yu did not know, but Li Fan, who had read the celestial healer's immortal scripture, revealed it in one word. Later, Immortal Venerable Jicheng gave Li Fan many pointers because of this. Li Fan was originally puzzled, but after inquiring again, he realized. Ink ancient bamboo, azure field wood, unwarranted flower, 100 spirit hawk, 9 refined deer, and hundreds of other herbs and creatures recorded in the celestial healer's immortal scripture. These plants and animals, which should have been very common, have become scarce in the current Xuanwang realm. Azure cloud willow is now only distributed in small quantities in some areas of Luoyang Prefecture. Immortal Venerable Jicheng's hometown is also Luoyang Prefecture. Jicheng mistakenly regarded Li Fan as a fellow villager at that time. That's why he took extra care. Celestial healer is a cultivator from the celestial law realm. There will be subtle differences in species between different cultivation worlds. Therefore, many of the spiritual medicines I saw in the celestial healer's immortal scripture are not found in the ancient Xuanwang realm. The disciples of the body transformation Tao naturally asked the surrounding cultivators, and the answers they got were that there was no such medicine. But the azure cloud willow, which was originally only found in the celestial law realm, now appears in some states after many years. This is a sign of the celestial law merging into Xuanwang. The fusion of the two realms. One of the two human corpses at the bottom of the Konyan Sea is a native of Xuanwang, and the other is the remains of a human from the celestial law realm. Although they are both human, they have subtle differences because they belong to different cultivation worlds. This difference is so small that even with Shangren Yin's ability, he can't figure it out. Not only does the Konyan Sea come from the celestial law realm. There are more states in the Xuanwang realm that also come from celestial healer's hometown. Examen Yu's book, A Study of Ancient and Modern Mountains and Rivers, deduces the changes in ancient and modern mountains and rivers. The Xuanwang realm does not seem to simply expand outward after devouring other small worlds and blessed lands, but is like being dissected and divided, and then filled with other world fragments in the gaps. Li Fan's thoughts churned. In the fallen immortal illusion, Ningyuan City and Zishao sect are not too far apart. But in the real world, the underground secret room of Mr. Bai in Ningyuan City is buried deep under Mount Taishu. And the Zishao sect ruins are far away in the Linyang Prefecture in the central part of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. In the same prefecture, thousands of years later, they are separated by the ends of the earth. Fusion, transformation, it's like performing a precise surgery. Celestial healer, the Xuanwang realm has undergone such earth-shaking changes in thousands of years. Ordinary cultivators are simply unaware of it. Even if someone like Examen Yu is gifted and able to see the truth through the fog, his works will be censored by the Myriad Immortals Alliance and cannot be disseminated. Piecing together all the clues, Li Fan roughly reconstructed a possible vague truth. After the disappearance of King Xuantian and the destruction of the Xuantian sect, the Xuanwang realm ushered in the era of the 10 immortal sects' rule. However, the threat of the immortal ruins did not change with the change of power in the Xuanwang realm. The 10 immortal sects still had to solve the crisis of falling into the immortal ruins. The Xuantian sect's great array of floating across the stars was obviously the most effective method among them. So the 10 immortal sects continued to promote the array and captured other worlds in the void. Finally, one day, they met the celestial law realm unexpectedly. From the combat power of Tianju, Tianyu and others, it can be seen that the overall strength of the celestial law realm at that time was not much weaker than that of the Xuanwang realm. Especially since the Xuanwang realm had also experienced an internal strife, and the strongest King Xuantian and his 12 Dharma kings were all missing. The celestial law realm would naturally not sit still. The two sides broke out in an extremely large-scale bloody battle. The Cloud-Water Celestial Palace in the Celestial Law realm, and the Body Transformation Dao in the Xuanwang realm. They were not particularly powerful sects. However, they still exhausted almost all of their disciples in this war. Even the great array of floating across the stars may have been damaged at that time. In the later stages of the war, both sides were caught in a dilemma and fell into a stalemate. At this time, Celestial Healer planned the scheme of Xuanfa, infiltrated the Xuanwang realm, used the new law to shake its foundation, and disintegrated Xuanwang from the inside. But I don't know what happened. By the time Xuanfa appeared on the Xuanwang land, a considerable amount of time had passed. And when the 10 immortal sects were destroyed and the Xuanwang realm's strength was greatly damaged. After Celestial Healer returned to the Celestial Law realm, what he saw was a scene of ruins and devastation. Li Fan tried his best to restore the history in the mist. Soon after, he frowned slightly. Although most of it seemed to be connected, he still felt that something was wrong. One is the time point when Xuanfa and Celestial Healer appeared in the Xuanwang realm. Or rather, there was a time difference in Celestial Healer's process of traveling back and forth between the two realms. Thinking of the miraculous journey of the Medicine King sect, Li Fan couldn't help but turn his attention to the immortal ruins outside the Xuanwang realm. Could it be affected by the immortal power of the immortal ruins? In addition to this, there is another puzzling point. The Xuanwang Heavenly Tao should naturally generate some degree of rejection to outsiders and foreign objects. Just like in the process of merging worlds, weirdness will be born due to the difference in laws. If Xuanfa is really an outsider, then when he spreads the Tao and tries to subvert the foundation of the world, he will definitely generate the will of heaven and earth to kill. Moreover, I remember that the 10 immortal sects once investigated Xuanfa's background. Although it may not be possible to find out the specific true identity. But it shouldn't be that they can't even figure out whether he is a Xuanwang realm cultivator or not. Xuanfa's identity seems to be strange. On the top of Mount Jiling, Li Fan stood for a long time, his thoughts lingering for a long time. Half a month later, he woke up from his meditation. He began to prepare for the plan of this life. Since I'm hiding behind the scenes, then the main body will not show up under any circumstances. It's best to use an avatar to create a target to attract attention. HMPH, the faceless sacred emperor who unified tens of thousands of small worlds. Li Fan floated down the mountain and refined an avatar with the essence and blood of the young Sun Erlang and Wang Xuanba. The Heavenly Emperor Qi scripture has no requirements for aptitude. Moreover, the cultivation talent of these two is not too bad. Cut off all memories about returning to truth and me. As a faceless figure slowly took shape in front of Li Fan, after observing it for a long time, Li Fan nodded in satisfaction. The heaven-blessed sacred emperor, who will conquer the heavens and make all worlds submit. You will be called Li Ping. Thinking this way, Li Fan's figure gradually faded away. After the avatar Li Ping woke up, he first scanned the surroundings. Then, as if thinking about something, he went straight to the capital of Dazan. Not long after, Li Fan's main body slowly reappeared. Although he only has the nascent soul realm without specific combat power. But it is more than enough for the mortals of Dazan. The trajectory of Dazan in this life should be the same as before. But I will adjust the subtle details. Li Fan looked into the distance at the void abyss in the east of Dazan. In fact, with his current strength of the God Transformation Complete stage, invincible under the Eternal Life stage, and able to fight against ordinary Eternal Life stages. Even if he went to the Xuanwang realm before returning to truth was fully charged, as long as he didn't actively seek death, he shouldn't encounter any fatal danger. But after thinking about it, Li Fan still shook his head and didn't act impulsively. No need to rush. He turned around and returned to the thatched cottage on the top of the mountain and sat down quietly. 1147. The Holy Dynasty shows its aura. The changes of heaven and earth, the transformations of yin and yang, reside within the heart. Li Fan's true form hovered above Mount Jili, overlooking the great Zon world, sensing the intertwining of the nascent changes within his body and the outside world, and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. I'm afraid that when Heavenly Doctor dismembered and changed the Xuanwang world, he used methods similar to what I'm doing now. If he hadn't taken the first step, with my current strength, I could actually modify local areas of the Xuanwang world. At this time, it was still anchored at year 1. Li Ping, the clone, went to Xuanjing City according to plan. With lightning speed, he executed the fatuous emperor, complied with the will of heaven, and established a new dynasty. This dynasty was not a tool hastily built to get rid of the faceless true immortal, but to prepare for probing the true identity of the Dharma transmitter. Naturally, it had to be more formal and could not use the old dynasty's name. So, 7 days later, Li Ping used magic to announce to the world that the new dynasty was named Open Black Lens Bracket Chi Close Black Lens Bracket. As one Open Black Lens Bracket Holy Emperor Throne Close Black Lens Bracket after another rose from the ground in various parts of Great Zon, the absolute prestige of the Qi dynasty was rapidly established among the people. Especially after the Open Black Lens Bracket Heaven and Earth Furnace Close Black Lens Bracket was created and placed in the Holy Emperor throne, the spiritual energy concentration of Great Qi increased day by day. And Li Fan's true form, in the process of spiritual energy recovery, quietly used the immense spiritual power within his body to accelerate and transform this process. What I released in Great Qi is one of the changes that naturally occurred after the Xuanwang world in the previous life suffered a world-destroying crisis. At this moment, in Li Fan's vision, the Great Qi small world was like a stone embryo, constantly changing its image under the shaping of his hands. The so-called changes in heaven and earth give rise to heroes. Because heroes are often born in accordance with the will of heaven, blessed by heaven, so their aptitude and talent often far exceed ordinary people. In folk legends, there is often a saying that heroes in troubled times are descended from the stars in the sky. The principle is actually the same. This changes Open Black Lens Bracket Heaven opens its favor, and the stars descend to the world Close Black Lens Bracket. As the power of the nascent changes of the world within his body dissipated, Li Fan was also able to clearly feel the changes taking place in the Great Qi world under the influence of this power. In the coming decades, true children of destiny like Mr. Bai and Su Yuqing will spring up like mushrooms after rain. The actual talent of the children of destiny is closely related to the strength of the world. As both are people of destiny, Mr. Bai is naturally far superior to Su Yuqing from the mortal Li realm. This batch of children of destiny born in Great Qi is probably a little weaker than the geniuses of the Xuanwang world at the beginning. But as Li Fan continuously transforms Great Qi, the small world will slowly be promoted. The quality of the geniuses of Great Qi will gradually catch up with and surpass the Xuanwang world. This is the change of the correspondence between heaven and man, the way of nourishing people with heaven. Li Fan carefully comprehended the subtle changes in the world being slowly shaped in his hands, and a sense of pride and detachment from the world could not help but arise in his heart. This is the real change of heaven and earth with a wave of the hand. What I am changing now is just a mortal small world. I really don't know what it would feel like to need the Xuanwang world at will like Heavenly Doctor. World and man, vastness and insignificance. But now, insignificant humans are shaping the world in reverse. The pleasure brought by this strong contrast even surpasses the improvement of cultivation and realm, making Li Fan almost addicted to it, unable to extricate himself. Fortunately, the Xuanwang Immortal Heart mantra operated on its own, and soon woke Li Fan up. This is the natural bewilderment of the heart after mastering power that originally did not belong to one's own level. If you continue to indulge, it is very likely that you will be assimilated by the world's heavenly way in reverse, losing self-awareness and becoming a part of the world's heavenly way. Li Fan narrowed his eyes and pondered secretly. In the process of shaping a brand new Great Qi mortal world, Li Fan also discovered that the nascent changes of the world were not a force that would last forever. The world operates according to changes, which will consume this part of the energy. For example, the open black lens bracket heaven opens its favor, and the stars descend to the world close black lens bracket that I urged. If there is no continued blessing later, relying only on the initial driving force, it is estimated that it will only last for about 50 years. It may even become shorter due to various unexpected factors. During the time Li Fan was waiting for Huan Zhen to complete charging, he had been thinking about comprehending the principles of the world's heavenly way, as well as his future path. And within the Great Qi dynasty, earth-shaking and terrifying changes were happening all the time. Anchored at year 1, open black lens bracket net body spiritual pools close black lens bracket were newly built everywhere. Matching it was a method called open black lens bracket pure heart mantra close black lens bracket. People from all over the world can go to the spiritual pool and use the pure heart mantra to remove the mortal miasma from their bodies. Anchored at year 2, the spiritual energy concentration of Great Qi had already reached the average level of the Xuanwang world. The heavenly mandate Holy Emperor appeared in the sky and personally taught the immortals to all living beings. Named open black lens bracket enlightenment spiritual Yuan Gong close black lens bracket. All citizens of Great Qi who have shed their mortal bodies can practice it. All those who have achieved a small success in the exercises can go to the Holy Capital to meet the heavenly mandate Holy Emperor and receive personal guidance from the Holy Emperor. At the same time, in a secret underground base in the Holy Capital, tens of thousands of strong soldiers began to temper their bodies with the creation furnace technique and absorb the power of alien beasts. Anchored in year 3, the heavenly mandate Holy Emperor issued a policy to encourage childbirth. Families with 3 children can be exempted from half of their taxes. If there are more, the court will also give additional rewards. In order to cooperate with this policy, open black lens bracket holy medical centers close black lens bracket were established throughout Great Qi. The doctors in the holy medical centers are all practitioners who have embarked on the path of immortality. Having been personally taught medical skills by the heavenly mandate Holy Emperor, each of them has superb medical skills, although they cannot bring the dead back to life or regrow flesh from bones. But they can easily resolve the illnesses encountered in daily life, and even the various dangers encountered during childbirth. In addition to the open black lens bracket Holy Medical Center close black lens bracket, buildings such as the open black lens bracket Holy School close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket Holy Heart Hall close black lens bracket are slowly being built. As the name suggests, the Holy School is a place for teaching. Through synchronized image transmission, the people of Great Qi can receive personal teachings from famous teachers in the Holy Capital in the Holy School in their city. Even the great heavenly mandate Holy Emperor will occasionally give lectures to them. The Holy Emperor's eyes seem to be able to see all living beings in the world at the same time. When he lectures, he will also ask questions to students from all over the world. Even those who cannot answer because of excessive nervousness, the Holy Emperor will not blame them, but will encourage them kindly. As time goes by, the heavenly mandate Holy Emperor's position in the minds of the people becomes more and more lofty and unshakable. Therefore, more and more people go to the Holy Heart Hall to pray every day. In the Holy Heart Hall, the statue of the heavenly mandate Holy Emperor stands tall. The face cannot be seen clearly, but the aura is sacred and inviolable. The citizens of Great Qi who have worries, those who have requests, those who have repentance. Nothing cannot be told to the Holy Emperor. The Holy Emperor is inclusive of everything and will not blame them. It is even said that occasionally the Holy Grace will descend and solve the worries of loyal believers silently. In addition to the various holy favors, the necessary criminal institutions of the dynasty were not absent. The Holy Supervision Court monitors the world, and all acts that violate the laws of the dynasty will be punished most severely. The most terrible punishment is not death, but being drawn out of consciousness and imprisoned in the Holy Heart Hall. They need to face the scolding of the people of Great Qi for eternity. The entire Great Qi dynasty is like a flying boat with more and more power, its strength soaring forward and increasing day by day. But it has never launched a war against the outside world, but has been accumulating strength. Early in year 8, anchored. Looking at the Huan Zhen that had been fully charged, Li Fan suddenly stood up. He stretched his muscles and headed towards the eastern ruins. Hiding behind the scenes does not mean staying in the Great Qi small world all the time. Just like at the end of the 119th life, he hid in the U prison. The enemy's hinterland, the place under the lamp, may be the safest and most unexpected place. After arriving in the familiar Xuanwang world, Li Fan did not stop, but turned into a phantom and went straight to Tianyu Prefecture. According to the secret news previously glimpsed in the Tianshuan mirror, there is an identity in Tianyu Prefecture that is suitable for disguise. Central Tianyu, Mount Luojia. In the underground cave. Li Fan was like a ghost, quietly sneaking in. After distinguishing the surrounding aura fluctuations, he showed a faint smile. Washan cultivator Sun Ang discovered the heaven and earth soul here. He used a formation to seal off the underground cave, and it took him 3 full years to kill the heaven and earth soul alone. Finally achieved the Hidao Immortal Venerable. Sun Ang's family has held important positions in the Guardian Hall for generations. When he became the Hidao Immortal Venerable, he was selected to enter the headquarters of the Guardian Hall not long after. Guarding the Yanfa Jade, he was one of the old men I met when I met the Yanfa Jade. Sun Ang's sacrifice of the heaven and earth soul is very mysterious. After Hidao, he never made a move again, and even I don't know his details. But it doesn't matter. While Li Fan's thoughts were turning, he had already discovered the target. The originally dark underground cave suddenly became colorful. Sun Ang sat cross-legged, with a serious expression, constantly pinching his fingers with both hands, sending out colorful rainbow lights to carefully bind the phantom in front of him. And that heaven and earth soul, for some reason, was sleeping. He didn't notice Sun Ang's small movements at all, and let him do it. Heaven and earth soul, Zilong. Granted heavenly duties, catalyzing Luoji 1,000 crystal 100 flowers. The moment Li Fan saw the phantom of the heaven and earth soul, he knew its essence. Luoji 1,000 crystal 100 flowers are a scenic spot in Mount Luojia. It appears once every 500 years, born from the earth, covering the mountains and plains like flowers. In fact, it is a special crystal like a spiritual stone. All kinds of information suddenly appeared in Li Fan's mind. One of the orders of heaven and earth, it has little to do with me. In fact, Li Fan didn't intend to attack this heaven and earth soul. He looked at Sun Ang, who was concentrating on casting spells to imprison Zilong, and his eyes flashed. He instantly laid down heavy formations, trapping him in the center. At this time, Sun Ang woke up. What? Before he could say the word, person, his eyes went dark and he had already lost consciousness. He traveled around in his sea of consciousness and read through his memories. Then he extracted a trace of the other party's essence and blood, and casually suppressed it in his own small world. Li Fan then launched the Qi-Zan True Spirit transformation and transformed into Sun Ang's appearance. There is another chapter around 2 o'clock, brothers don't wait. 11:48. The heat silence and ice change. The primary goal of transforming into Sun Ang and infiltrating the Guardian Hall headquarters was not actually the deduction jade. It was indeed for concealment. Based on the information gathered so far, the Myriad Immortals Alliance has very strict management of the cultivators guarding the deduction jade. Not only do they need a clean background, but they are basically selected from the Guardian Hall's hereditary families. They also have to undergo strict scrutiny before joining. Moreover, the key point is that once they choose to guard the deduction jade, they are not allowed to step out of the Guardian Hall headquarters for 300 years. While guarding it, they themselves become prisoners. Therefore, in the Guardian Hall's major hereditary families, basically no one is willing to take on this thankless task, even if the reward for the task is generous. After reaching the Tao harmonization stage, there is no hope of longevity. What they pursue is nothing more than power and enjoyment. Sitting in prison for 300 years is not something everyone can tolerate. But this special condition happens to be the best hiding place for Li Fan. The Guardian Hall headquarters is located in the Myriad Immortals Alliance headquarters. The space where the deduction jade is located has many formations and restrictions. There may even be a legacy left behind. Even Li Fan now does not have a 100% certainty of being able to forcefully enter and exit, change his identity and hide inside. When the outside world is in turmoil, no one would have thought that the mastermind behind all this had been hiding in this Immortal Alliance stronghold hundreds of years ago. In fact, the deduction jade is no longer very useful to me. If I want to go further now, unless it is a very suitable immortal technique. Otherwise, I still need my own understanding of the Tao and the principles of the world. These ordinary techniques deduced by the deduction jade. Li Fan shook his head slightly. After all, it is only a wonder of the Xuanwang heaven. From Li Fan's current height, if he wants to compete with the heavenly physician, the legacy, and even the true immortals, the help that the deduction jade can provide is extremely limited. And Li Fan has reincarnated for many lifetimes, taking in ancient and modern secrets. After obtaining the origin of the heavenly Zan mirror, the secrets of the Myriad Immortals Alliance are even more unobstructed. And he has received guidance from the heavenly physician's inheritance. Li Fan's current vision and level are actually among the top existences in the entire Xuanwang realm. For example, the profound mystery true spirit transformation, the original version deduced by the deduction jade, the applicability was only at the core formation stage. But when Li Fan broke through to the transformation God stage in this life, in the 8 years of waiting in the small world, he relied on himself and did not spend much effort to synchronize it to the transformation God stage. To some extent, Li Fan is even slightly better than the deduction jade in terms of deducing the most suitable techniques for himself. After all, Li Fan has returning to truth, which is absolutely impossible for the deduction jade to know. Unless, like the ending disintegration disk, I help it complete its sublimation and transformation. Li Fan's eyes flickered. While thinking, he flew away from the underground karst cave of Mount Luochi. The heaven and earth spirit purple dragon, this existence weaker than the first generation crimson flame, Li Fan has no interest in devouring. As for not devouring it, how to disguise Tao harmonization? Among the Xuanwang world-destroying transformation that Li Fan absorbed, there are several that are not inferior to the power of the heaven and earth spirit. And its external manifestation of power is almost the same as the heaven and earth spirit, making it difficult to distinguish. In the end, the heaven and earth spirit is a manifestation of the Xuanwang realm's laws. At the moment of imminent destruction, there is naturally no time to manifest the corresponding heaven and earth spirit, but directly manifest with the power of the world. On the way back to the Sun family, Li Fan's clothes and appearance were quietly changing. His eyebrows and hair became snow-white, and his clothes seemed to be stained with frost. The space that Li Fan passed through while flying seemed to have many small ice crystals due to the low temperature. Cosmic heat death, all things frozen. This is one of the evolutions born in the Xuanwang realm to cope with the crisis of life and death. Putting all things in the world into a state of absolute darkness and silence in order to escape the catastrophe. In theory, it is indeed feasible. It's a pity that the external force is too strong, directly destroying the entire system in an instant. This heat death and ice sealing transformation is almost the same as the ice-type heaven and earth spirit. I deliberately faked the occasional overflow of energy fluctuations to simulate the appearance of me just being promoted and my realm being unstable. Li Fan was thinking, and the heavenly Yu Sky City was already in sight. Without the slightest pause, he flew straight into the Sun family in the city. Although generations of family members have held important positions in the Guardian Hall, and now there are 3 Tao harmonization stage cultivators in the family, the Sun family is very low-key. In the heavenly Yu Sky City, they only purchased 2 adjacent cave dwellings that looked inconspicuous on the outside. Only by entering them can one discover the hidden secrets of these 2 connected cave dwellings. Sun Ang, you still know how to come back. As soon as Li Fan flew in, a somewhat angry voice followed. It was Sun Ang's Tao companion, Wu Ninglu. Wu Ninglu's cultivation was similar to that of the previous Sun Ang, both in the late stage of transformation god. However, their relationship was not very good. They became Tao companions due to the pressure between their families. There have been no children born all these years. Huh, you are. Wu Ninglu was aggressive, looking like she was here to question him. However, when she saw Li Fan's appearance at this time, she was shocked. Li Fan just glanced at Wu Ninglu and did not answer her. I'm tired, he said very coldly and then flew towards Sun Ang's residence. Inside the Sun family's cave dwelling was a circular valley. Important buildings such as the family's council hall and treasure house were located in the center of the valley. And the residences of the various family members were distributed in the circular mountain. Wu Ninglu had long been holding back a belly full of fire for Sun Ang's unannounced departure and then inexplicably losing contact. Seeing that the other party was still indifferent after returning home, Wu Ninglu was even more angry in her heart. But for some reason, when she, who was about to flare up, saw the other party's cold eyes, her anger was instantly extinguished. She opened her mouth, but she didn't even have the courage to stop him. This inexplicable emotion slowly dissipated until Sun Ang's back completely disappeared from sight. I was actually scared by him. The unacceptable Wu Ninglu was both shocked and angry. But recalling Sun Ang's performance just now, a bold guess could not help but emerge in her mind. Sun Ang, he broke through. When facing Sun Ang just now, Wu Ninglu did indeed have the feeling of panic and unease that she only had when facing family elders. Thinking of this, the anger and dissatisfaction in Wu Ninglu's heart dissipated. With unbelievable surprise, she quickly followed him back to her home. Sun Ang, as if returning to the time when they first met, Wu Ninglu asked cautiously. 1149, the Sun family's successor. Li Fan lay on the bed with his eyes closed, as if he hadn't heard Wu Ninglu's words at all. Wu Ninglu's beautiful eyes darted around, and she was about to take off her clothes and climb onto the bed as well. However, just as her body was about to approach Li Fan, a bone-chilling coldness made her shiver involuntarily and instinctively move away. Upon closer inspection, Wu Ninglu was horrified to find that a layer of frost had condensed on the surface of her skin in just that instant. If she hadn't subconsciously dodged, Wu Ninglu had no doubt that she would have been frozen into an ice cube by her husband. She was both happy and angry. Before she could say 1,000 words, she heard Li Fan suddenly say indifferently, "I just broke through, and I can't perfectly control my power yet. It's best if you don't approach me casually recently." Having her offer of warmth rejected, Wu Ninglu was no longer annoyed at this moment. Her face lit up with joy, and she nodded repeatedly, "Okay, okay. I didn't expect Sun Lang, after disappearing for more than half a year, to give me such a big surprise when you reappeared. This is a major event that must be notified and made known to the entire clan." Wu Ninglu was about to go out when she saw an ice wall blocking the door, stopping her from leaving. She turned her head to look at Li Fan. Li Fan still didn't open his eyes, but said something that seemed completely irrelevant. "Have the 3 elders in the family made a decision about who will take office in the Dharma Protector Hall?" Wu Ninglu was stunned for a moment, and then immediately reacted. "The head of the family naturally can't leave. The eldest uncle and the third uncle shirked each other for a long time. Not long ago, it was said that the eldest uncle couldn't win in the end and compromised." Speaking of this, Wu Ninglu couldn't help but retract her foot that had already stepped out. "Our branch has never been well regarded in the clan. If the news of my advancement to the Dao integration realm spreads, I'm afraid I'll have to go to the Dharma Protector Hall in their place. I won't be able to go out for at least 300 years. HMPH. If I hadn't been injured in the process of advancing and my realm was unstable, afraid of being noticed by outsiders and having the fruit picked, I wouldn't have returned rashly." Li Fan sighed slightly. "Although going to the Dharma Protector Hall will give certain material compensation from both the clan and the Immortal Alliance, those are basically useless to me now, and besides, 300 years is too long." Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Wu Ninglu. "So, don't leak the news of my advancement for the time being." Meeting Li Fan's gaze, Wu Ninglu's body trembled violently, and she nodded involuntarily. Li Fan closed his eyes again to recuperate. The room fell into silence again. The faintly discernible ice-sealed field forced Wu Ninglu to use almost all her spiritual power to maintain her body temperature. Curled up in the corner of the room, Wu Ninglu felt both aggrieved and envious. Is this the power of Dao integration? I didn't expect him to have a day to advance to Dao integration. I originally thought that Sun Weizhou would be the first to break through among the younger generation. Wu Ninglu looked at her husband who was recuperating and cultivating, her mind filled with thoughts. Until the rising and falling aura on his body gradually calmed down, but he still didn't speak, still meditating with his eyes closed. Only then did Wu Ninglu leave the house quietly, feeling sullen. If I'm not mistaken, before long, this stupid woman will reveal that her Dao companion is already a Dao integration expert. She's just set her sights on the little bit of profit promised by Sun Luchang. It can't be said that she's really that stupid. After all, the benefits that are really in your hands are the real ones. As long as Sun Ang is a Dao integration expert, no matter where he is, others will be polite to her, this Dao integration wife." Li Fan's eyes were deep, as if he could see through time. As Li Fan had expected. Half a month later, when she personally saw the eldest uncle and the third uncle promising various generous conditions to each other in order to avoid taking office in the Dharma Protector Hall, Wu Ninglu couldn't help but feel a little tempted. You must know that she and Sun Ang had not had a very good life in the past. They couldn't get a word in edgewise in various family decisions, and any good things were always given to others first. However, because of Li Fan's previous instructions, she did not speak directly. But Wu Ninglu's somewhat unusual expression could not escape the eyes of several Dao integrations of the Sun family. In addition, there was the trace of fluctuation that Li Fan had deliberately omitted when he returned earlier. This made them vaguely guess in their hearts. After some questioning, Wu Ninglu half-pushed and half-heartedly told the story. Sun Luchang was overjoyed and hurriedly pulled his 2 brothers to come to the door together. Li Fan pretended to show a helpless and angry expression, looking at Wu Ninglu. The 3 Dao integration elders took the initiative to exonerate her. Then, they moved him with emotion and reasoned with him, persuading Li Fan in turn. For the overall interests of the family, he finally had to agree to take office in the Dharma Protector Hall in his place. Luer, don't worry, during the time you're away, we will definitely take good care of Ninglu and won't let her suffer any grievances, Sun Luchang assured. Luer is Sun Ang's nickname. Logically speaking, as fellow Dao integration cultivators, even if they were elders, it would no longer be appropriate to call him by his nickname as before. However, Sun Luchang still called him that, just to remind Sun Ang of his identity as a member of the Sun family. In order to ensure that Sun Ang could pass the Immortal Alliance's review, the 3 Dao integrations of the Sun family also joined forces to test Sun Ang's actual combat power. Li Fan mainly focused on defense, occasionally releasing 1 or 2 spells with not very powerful power. After persisting for hundreds of rounds, he gradually showed signs of being unable to support himself. Luer, the power of heaven and earth that you devoured is really quite extraordinary. Although the offensiveness is a bit lacking, the field that freezes everything around it can block most offensive methods. The 3 Dao integrations of the Sun family were very satisfied with Li Fan's performance. Even if he was a newly advanced Dao integration, such strength was enough to report to the Immortal Alliance. Before Li Fan went to the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, he quietly called Wu Ninglu to his side. I know you've been avoiding me recently, are you afraid that I'll blame you? How could I? Actually, I also know that even if you don't say it, the fact that I've advanced to Dao integration won't be able to be hidden for long. Some things are unavoidable. Besides, you and I are one. It's nothing for me to work hard for 300 years to earn some benefits for you. Wu Ninglu was greatly surprised by Li Fan's remarks and couldn't help but be stunned. She was even a little moved. You still have to be careful when you're alone during the time I'm away. Those old guys at home say nice things, but it's hard to say what they're really like. This time I went out, I met a good friend. This person helped me a lot to break through. As Li Fan said, he handed over a communication jade talisman. If you encounter something you can't solve, contact him. He should be able to help you resolve it. However, this person is also a Dao integration cultivator, and his temperament is a bit strange. Don't ask him for help unless it's absolutely necessary. Remember. The next chapter will be around 1 o'clock, my hand is injured, and coding is a bit slow. 11:50. The image of the childhood law. Wu Ninglu accepted the jade talisman Li Fan handed over, hesitating to speak. It's just 300 years. I'm going. Li Fan simply waved his hand, saying nothing more. He followed the Sun family head to the Myriad Immortals Alliance headquarters. The jade talisman given to Wu Ninglu, in addition to serving as a communication talisman, was essentially a miniature aggregation formation. It contained a wisp of Li Fan's divided soul. While enabling comprehensive surveillance of Wu Ninglu, its primary purpose was to plant an eye outside and constantly monitor the movements of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. The divided soul possessed the origin of the Celestial Mystery Mirror, allowing it to lurk within the Celestial Mystery Mirror and supervise the affairs of the Myriad Immortals Alliance at all times. After all, during the time he was guarding the Edict Jade, he might be completely isolated, unable to easily use even the Celestial Mystery Mirror. And the clone was in the Great Chi Small World, and would not easily go out. Leaving a backup plan was still necessary. With Li Fan's current strength, the divided soul he left behind had actual combat power comparable to an ordinary Dao harmonization cultivator. The only drawback was that, unlike normal cultivators, it could not quickly recover after a battle. Without the replenishment of the main body, it would lose power with every use. As for the friend that Li Fan mentioned to Wu Ninglu, it was naturally the sacred blood incarnation he had created. However, without the true immortal network and the infusion of source power essence, the sacred incarnation had only barely broken through to the chi refining realm. Li Fan had sent it to the Celestial Sword Sect ruins, where it was subduing the Black Sword Heavenly Anomaly. With the previous experience, there should be no problems. It just required persistent effort. Sun Luan, the head of the Sun family, had been in the Dao harmonization realm for over 500 years. He had also guarded the Edict Jade in his youth. On the way to the Immortal Alliance headquarters, he introduced the details of this job to Li Fan. The Edict Jade is the foundation of our Immortal Alliance. Don't think that being in the Immortal Alliance headquarters means it's absolutely safe. In reality, we need to be constantly vigilant against the means of villains. Over the millennia, the Five Elders Council has planned no less than 3 actions against the Edict Jade. They try to find ways to approach the Edict Jade, and then use a technique called Evil Curse to attack its spiritual will. The Edict Jade has almost no defensive capabilities in this regard. Once it is hit, it means at least 100 years of stagnation. The last successful attack by the Five Elders Council caused heavy losses to the Immortal Alliance. However, this matter cannot be publicized. The exchange price of the techniques in the Celestial Mystery Mirror has almost doubled. The Immortal Alliance cultivators complained and were in an uproar. Sun Luan recalled the events of his youth, shaking his head inwardly. So your job is not as simple as it looks. Family head, if I fail to stop these malicious attacks during my tenure, causing damage to the Edict Jade, what will happen? Li Fan asked. Sun Luan's forward steps suddenly stopped. He turned his head to look at Li Fan, paused, and said, "Anyway, the promise remains unchanged. We will take good care of Ninglu. You can go with peace of mind." Li Fan was immediately speechless. He hadn't realized before that Sun Luan had quite a sense of humor. In a flash of light and shadow, Li Fan returned to the Myriad Immortals Alliance headquarters once again. As before, a phantasm appeared before his eyes. However, this time, it was different from the image of the Celestial Venerable of teaching he had seen before. On an endless field, smoke curled up from kitchen chimneys. On the roof of one of the farmhouses, a seemingly honest and simple young man was lying down. His eyes were vacant, looking at the sky, seemingly thinking about something. "Go Dan, come down for dinner." The picture ended abruptly. Escaping from the phantasm, Li Fan couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Sun Luan thought he was shocked by the extremely realistic illusion, and explained to him, "The Immortal Alliance headquarters has a trace of the Celestial Venerable of Teaching's aura remaining, so." Li Fan naturally knew this. He was thinking about something else. That honest and simple young man named Go Dan. Is that the Celestial Venerable of Teaching when he was young? Recalling the image he had just seen in his mind, it did have some resemblance to the older Celestial Venerable of Teaching. Could it be that the Celestial Venerable of Teaching is a native of the Xuanwang world? That's not right. Li Fan repeatedly reviewed that short scene several times. No matter how you look at Go Dan's appearance, it has nothing to do with the Celestial Venerable of Teaching who dominated the Xuanwang world for an era. That confused gaze, and the huge turning point in his later life, it's more like. A word couldn't help but appear in Li Fan's mind. Transmigration. If my previous guess is correct, then this young man named Go Dan should be the heavenly physician's soul transmigration. Coming from the heavenly law world, his consciousness has been dormant since birth. It was not until several years later that he awakened. Is this how he escaped the pursuit of the immortal Dao 10 sects and the Xuanwang heavenly Dao? Just like Li Fan today, in the eyes of the Xuanwang heavenly Dao, he is a genuine local cultivator. At that time, no matter how the outside world investigated, the Celestial Venerable of Teaching did not reveal his true identity. Li Fan still did not understand what mechanism the so-called transmigration was based on. But he was very clear that it was definitely different from simple body snatching. Through some secret technique, he deceived the heavens and crossed the sea, reincarnating as a person of the Xuanwang world. Li Fan's thoughts slowly turned. Just as he was thinking, Sun Luan casually asked him about the illusion he had seen. Li Fan naturally replied that he had seen the image of the Celestial Venerable of Teaching before. Sun Luan nodded slightly upon hearing this. "It seems that your future achievements are destined to surpass mine." Without waiting for Li Fan to ask, he took the initiative to explain, "The illusions seen by each cultivator when they first come here are different. It is said that it is closely related to one's fundamental path. As everyone knows, the cultivation techniques practiced by all the cultivators in the world come from the Celestial Venerable of Teaching. Therefore, the closer the scene seen is to the Celestial Venerable, the more limitless the future will be. It is said that there are truly geniuses who can see the scene of the Celestial Venerable of Teaching's first Tao discussion." Sun Luan said with some envy. Li Fan was silent and a sense of vigilance suddenly arose in his heart. This time, his strength had rapidly increased, and he had actually glimpsed the Celestial Venerable of Teaching's childhood. If he went any further, he would probably directly arouse the vigilance of the Celestial Venerable of Teaching's aura. The two of them traveled through the void of the Immortal Alliance headquarters with the help of formations. They soon arrived at the headquarters of the Protector Hall. "Follow me," Sun Luan said softly, making a slight hand gesture. An invisible force field instantly enveloped him and Li Fan. The spiritual power in his body, which had become dormant due to the spirit transformation stone under his feet, became active again. It has a certain suppressive effect on me, but the effect is not as obvious as when I was at a lower realm. If I really start a fight, I am still invincible among Tao harmonization cultivators. Li Fan was calm in his heart, and followed Sun Luan all the way into the protector hall. Unlike the waiting space he was in when using the petition jade token before, he had truly arrived at the location of the protector hall. The circular dome was densely covered with countless stars. 11:51. Time leaves a gap. Looking closely, those starlight spots resembled tiny windows. Through the windows, various scenes were refracted. Countless characters flew about, clearly forming cultivation methods. Beneath the dome, there were no guardian hall cultivators to be seen, only streaks of light constantly traversing the space. Sun Luyuan, the head of the Sun family, seemed to be reporting the situation to someone. Before long, a figure flew down from the dome and landed in front of Li Fan and Sun Ang. It was an avatar formed entirely of flowing characters, not a real person. He sized up Li Fan and nodded slightly. "Young man, I saw you over 100 years ago, when you were still a golden core cultivator. In the blink of an eye, you've grown so much. Follow me." With that, the characters paved a road leading directly to the dome. Li Fan followed Sun Luyuan and stood on the road of characters. After a moment, his body seemed to transform into countless characters as well, ready to scatter across the road like an article. A sense of crisis suddenly arose in his heart. Li Fan realized that under the influence of the surrounding characters, the memories in his soul seemed to be involuntarily overflowing, writing out the chapters of his past life. Is this a method of peering into the past experiences of the visitor by sensing the memories of the soul? Li Fan pondered, and in an instant, he reproduced the first half of Sun Ang's life, the one where he was seized, within his soul. Then, he released it, allowing it to be sensed by the surrounding road of characters. The transformed characters had unique personal markers, clearly distinct from the road underfoot. As for Sun Luyuan, he didn't seem to be subjected to any scrutiny. The road of characters soon reached its end, and Li Fan and Sun Ang arrived inside a starlight window on the dome. Their forms changed from characters back to people, but Li Fan's experiences were separately compiled into a scroll. The cultivator leading the way now revealed his true appearance. He looked even younger than Sun Ang, like a boy of 17 or 18. His long hair hung over his shoulders, and a cinnabar dot marked his brow. He looked delicate and refined. "This is Elder Nangong of the Guardian Hall," Sun Luyuan introduced Li Fan. Nangong looked at the scroll in his hand and nodded slightly. "No problems. This first test is passed." With a casual toss, the scroll recording Sun Ang's life turned into a stream of light and flew off into the unknown. Li Fan observed his surroundings. It was as if he were in the void outside the Xuanwang realm, with a giant ball of light floating in front of him. It was just like the miniature model of the Xuanwang realm he had seen in the hyper-distance teleportation array. Pass through the Xuanwang realm. If you don't cause the ball of light to shake, then you pass the second test, Nangong said, taking the lead and transforming into a beam of light. Li Fan didn't hesitate and followed closely. The yellow halo was dreamlike and illusory, even giving a sense of inexplicable warmth. It was like returning to his mother's womb. Without encountering any changes, Li Fan quickly flew out of the ball of light. As he left, he even felt a faint sense of reluctance. Li Fan also keenly noticed that the speed of his Xuanwang Immortal Heart Mantra's operation was several times faster than usual. Is this to verify whether or not I'm a native cultivator of the Xuanwang realm? Li Fan immediately understood something in his heart. The third test was to verify whether or not he was a cultivator of the Five Old Ones Association. In the void, 5 statues with indistinguishable faces circled around. Li Fan needed to stand still in the encirclement of the statues for half an hour. Only if there were no abnormalities during this period would he pass the test. Li Fan in this life was innocent and pure. He had not yet had any connection with the Five Old Ones Association. So naturally, he passed the test easily. These statues have some tricks. They seem to be attached to a trace of the 5 Heavenly Venerables' power of inverse logic. While being observed by the Five Old Ones Association statues, Li Fan was also observing these 5 Heavenly Venerables. At the same time, he felt a sense of realization. Even if it's not the Heavenly Venerables themselves, it's not far off. If I had come after experiencing Senior Sister Zhao's illusion, even if it was just an avatar that had experienced it, I'm afraid it would have caused a reaction from the statues. The 5 statues dissipated, and Li Fan welcomed the final test before joining the job. The surroundings suddenly fell into a void. Sun Luyuan and Elder Nangong, who were just beside him, suddenly disappeared. Li Fan frowned slightly and scanned left and right. He didn't detect anything unusual. It wasn't a trap, and there was no conspiracy. This was just a pure void. Besides Li Fan, there was nothing else. What is this testing? Li Fan understood and wasn't in a hurry. He stood in the void to see what tricks the Guardian Hall was playing. In the void, even time seemed to have lost its meaning. He didn't know how long it had been, but even Li Fan's patience was starting to feel restless. It was as if he had been forgotten by the whole world, and everything else in the world had disappeared except for himself. Elder Nangong still showed no sign of appearing. Are they just going to leave me here? Out of his natural distrust of others, this thought couldn't help but arise in Li Fan's mind. He even had the idea of revealing his true cultivation, breaking through the mechanism here, and leaving directly. However, in an instant, Li Fan suppressed it. He calmed down and opened the still real panel. Confirming that it was still anchored at 8 years, in an instant, all the unease and anxiety completely disappeared. He continued to wait in the void. It seemed like hundreds or thousands of years had passed, and Li Fan suddenly thought of something. He began to show some anxiety. He no longer stood still in place, but flew around, exploring, looking like he wanted to find a way out. Then, Li Fan slowly amplified the emotions he was revealing. However, he never showed a loss of control, only some negative emotions were revealed. Thus, hundreds or thousands of years seemed to pass again. Finally, in the dark void, light returned. Elder Nangong and Sun Luyuan reappeared. Li Fan narrowed his eyes slightly, making a look as if he had been through a lifetime. He even looked carefully at the two, as if he was thinking about their identities. This final test has also been passed. Elder Nangong finally showed a smile on his face. He looked at Li Fan and praised, "Your mental state is good. You were in the time gap for more than 200 years before showing signs of losing control. And you were still able to maintain your rationality. This result is very good in the past tests." After hearing this, Li Fan was silent for a long time. It seemed that he was digesting the news. Elder Nangong continued to explain, "This test is to test the mental stability of the cultivator. After all, you have to accompany the Yanfa Jade for more than 300 years, and you can't leave for any reason in the middle. If you can't bear this torment and become crazy, it will be difficult to handle." Li Fan suddenly asked, "Are there any cultivators who have been calm from beginning to end and haven't shown any anxiety?" There is another chapter in 15 minutes. 11:52. The law never stops. Elder Nangong seemed surprised by Li Fan's question, pausing for a moment. Then, his gaze suddenly deepened. If there really is such a person, then we must not let him near the Yanfa Ju. To be alone for hundreds of years, with a mood that remains consistently calm. Either he's a madman, or his temperament is extreme. Li Fan interrupted him. "I've heard that some peerless geniuses can cultivate in seclusion for 100 years without distraction. Isn't it normal not to have a mental breakdown from being trapped?" Elder Nangong chuckled, shaking his head slightly, and said with certainty, "Such geniuses wouldn't come here. Unless they have ulterior motives." Li Fan was immediately speechless. Sun Luan's expression on the side was also a little awkward. "All right, welcome to the Dharma Protector Hall. Next, I will introduce some special precautions to you. Besides the various rules of the Immortal Alliance, there are more things to pay attention to when interacting with the Yanfa Ju. Brother Sun, you may return now. Your task can be considered complete." Waiting for these words from Elder Nangong, Sun Luan felt relieved. After giving Li Fan a few more instructions, he finally bid farewell and left. After talking for almost half an hour, Nangong then took Li Fan and flew out of this space. They completed the appointment procedures and received the Dharma Protector Hall Elder supplies. After changing into the Dharma Protector Hall's unique black and gold-trimmed robe, Li Fan followed Nangong to the most central and brightest light spot on the dome. "Sending you in to complete the final handover, and I'll be free." Nangong smiled, appearing genuinely happy. "Oh, right, one last word of advice. There are 2 other Dharma Protector Hall Elders guarding with you. Do not communicate or talk to them unless absolutely necessary. Every sound wave within the Yanfa Ju's space will be recorded and reviewed by specialists regularly." Nangong transmitted his voice quietly, expressionless. As if these words weren't his. Li Fan cupped his fist in acknowledgement and expressed his gratitude. Then, he bid farewell to Nangong and flew into the white starlight. What came into view was a scene he was already very familiar with, the space where the Yanfa Ju was located. A giant sphere composed of countless characters. The characters on the sphere were in a state of endless transformation every moment. Occasionally, the entire text on the sphere would pause for a moment, then emit a burst of flashing light and disappear. And then began the endless transformation and derivation again. Below this giant sphere, a desk floated in the void. A loli who looked only 5 or 6 years old was lying on the desk. Looking at the constantly emerging words on the desk, she seemed listless. As she had every time he had seen her before. Seeming to sense someone's arrival, Yanfa Ju slightly raised her head. Seeing Li Fan's serious face and the black and gold robe he was wearing, she curled her lips and lowered her head again. Another ugly one. Li Fan clearly heard the Yanfa Ju's small mumble. His body couldn't help but stiffen slightly. He, you'll get used to it, an old voice rang out beside Li Fan. It was one of the Harmony Dao elders hiding here, responsible for guarding Zhang Shu. He briefly introduced himself, then fell silent again. As for the other colleague, he never greeted Li Fan. Li Fan didn't mind, and flew towards his workstation. The so-called workstation was actually a special location in this space. Similar to a keynote in a formation, being in it was like being high above, with a clear view of all the surrounding energy fluctuations. Most of the time guarding the Yanfa Ju was spent in this specific location. This is even worse than being in prison. No wonder those Harmony Dao cultivators from the Sun family weren't willing to come. Li Fan sighed somewhat. He pretended to observe the surroundings, seemingly familiarizing himself with the working environment. But in reality, he was secretly thinking about the loopholes in this surveillance space. Apart from the constantly changing light and shadow of the giant character sphere, the atmosphere here remained quiet, even suffocating. And Li Fan, in a short time, had no clue how to break through the restrictions and secretly contact the Yanfa Ju. And so, about half a year passed. The little loli, who had been working at her desk, suddenly straightened her back and raised her hands high. She excitedly whispered, "Yay! It's break time." After speaking, she immediately lay down again. And fell fast asleep. 6 hours. At this time, the voices of Zhang Shu and the other guarding Harmony Dao cultivator sounded at the same time. 6 hours was the Yanfa Ju's rare break time. Once the time was up, she had to be awakened on time. Looking at the Yanfa Ju sleeping soundly, Li Fan sighed inwardly, this is really a bit inhumane. She should at least rest for 12 hours. During the half-year he had been guarding, for some reason, no cultivator using the Jinfa Jade token had entered this space. There were almost no opportunities for the Yanfa Ju to slack off. After thinking about it, Li Fan still raised the question in his heart to Elder Zhang Shu. After all, this was within the scope of his duties. Zhang Shu was silent for a while, and then replied, 3 years ago, a 5-old society spy somehow obtained a Jinfa Jade token and sneaked in. He wanted to plot something against us. Although we discovered it and stopped it in time, without causing any serious consequences, it alarmed the higher-ups of the Immortal Alliance. Before the responsibility for this matter is investigated, Jinfa has been completely suspended. It is estimated that it will take a few years to recover. Zhang Shu said a few simple words, and then stopped speaking. Li Fan was thoughtful. Each Jinfa Jade token is a reward from the Immortal Alliance to cultivators who have made outstanding contributions, and is extremely precious. It would actually appear in the hands of the 5-old society. Moreover, according to Nangong's previous instructions, the probability of 5-old society spies sneaking in is not low. It basically happens every few decades. Although in a head-on conflict, the 5-old society is no match for the Myriad Immortal Alliance. But when it comes to these conspiracies and tricks, the Myriad Immortal Alliance is much inferior. Thanks to the Heaven Mystery Mirror's heaven-defying ability, Li Fan knew pretty much all about the current whereabouts of the Jinfa Jade tokens. As one of the 3 guards, I am strictly monitored, so it's not easy to make a move. Perhaps I can take a roundabout approach, using the Jinfa Jade token to create an opportunity to be alone with the Yanfa Ju. Li Fan thought to himself. 12 hours passed quickly. However, the Yanfa Ju was still lying on the long desk, fast asleep. Showing no sign of waking up. From the other 2 guarding Harmony Dao cultivators, Li Fan faintly sensed some helplessness. Brother Sun, it's your turn, Zhang Shu said with a smile via voice transmission. 11:53. The stars of Xuanwang return. Li Fan could keenly sense that Yan Fahui had long since woken up. She was still lying on the long table at this moment, definitely just pretending to be asleep. The 3 Dao integration cultivators guarding this place were all well aware of this. Letting Li Fan wake the little lowly was merely because he was the newcomer. Li Fan was clear about Yan Fahui's temperament, childish, vindictive, and petty. She definitely wouldn't give a good look to anyone who disturbed her rest. And these guards, were only responsible for monitoring. They really couldn't do anything to Yan Fahui. When the little ancestor's temper flared up, they could only coax and indulge her. Sensing the 2 divine senses falling on him, Li Fan didn't refuse. Following the method Elder Nangong had taught him earlier, he used the sealing power of this Yan Fa space to conjure a gong above the little lowly's head. Then he slammed it down. Clang! Yan Fahui's body trembled violently, and she suddenly raised her head. In an instant, she locked onto Li Fan, the culprit, her little face full of anger. Li Fan shrugged, looking very innocent. The rest time has exceeded 6 hours. It's time to get up and work. Yan Fahui still stared wide-eyed, glaring at Li Fan. As if Li Fan had committed some heinous crime. Li Fan put on a stern face and continued, by the way, according to the regulations, the time exceeded this time will be deducted from the next vacation. The time you spend staring at me also counts. Li Fan touched his face, seemingly not minding Yan Fahui continuing to look at him like that. But when Yan Fahui heard that the next vacation time would be reduced, she immediately became like a cat whose fur had stood on end. Big eyes were covered with a layer of mist, looking at the other 2 guards with full of grievance. Zhang Shu and the other both turned their heads away. Li Fan, on the other hand, revealed a kind smile, sizing up Yan Fahui as if watching a good show. He even conjured an hourglass to record the passage of time. After freezing for a while, watching the bottom of the hourglass fill up more and more, Yan Fahui finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She glared fiercely at Li Fan, and her little hand slammed the table. The character light spheres, which had been somewhat stagnant, instantly began to evolve rapidly again. Li Fan's smile remained unchanged. Being here for hundreds of years, he could only pass the time by teasing the little lowly. Just as Li Fan successfully lurked and approached Yan Fahui. Da Qi, Holy Capital. After 8 years of earth-shattering development, the Holy Dynasty's aura had transformed from red to purple. And the open double-angle bracket Heavenly Emperor Qi manual close double-angle bracket cultivated by the avatar Li Ping had also successfully stepped into the 4th level of realm. With the help of the magnificent fortune of hundreds of millions of living beings, I now have the strength to fight against a He Dao perfection cultivator from the Xuanwang realm. If I develop for a few more decades, developing this small world to the extreme, I may be able to compare with He Dao. But if I want to go further, to be comparable to immortality. The avatar Li Ping shook his head slightly. The great formation of heaven and earth and all spirits has been initially established. It's time to expand our territory. With a thought from Li Ping, Sun Erlang and Wang Xuanba appeared before him not long after. Greetings, Master. The 2 bowed in unison. The avatar Li Ping waved his hand, and a map as dense as the stars in the sky floated out of thin air. Each white light spot represents a Dongtian or a small world. And the location of Da Qi is glowing with a sacred purple light. Sun Erlang looked up at the map in front of him, staring blankly. When his divine sense focused on those white light spots, the various information about the small world they represented also appeared in his mind accordingly. I have already told you about the specific pattern of the Xuanwang realm. Currently, we have not yet faced the power of the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Association head-on. Therefore, the national policy for the next 100 years is to gather the power of the various small worlds and expand the territory of the Holy Dynasty. The Myriad Worlds unite to counterattack the Xuanwang. The avatar Li Ping did not shy away from the current weakness of the Da Qi dynasty, but instead painted a bright future for the 2 beloved disciples. Sun Erlang and Wang Xuanba were not completely ignorant of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. He even knew of the existence of the Law Transmitter, the Mirror Holder, and other supreme authorities of the Immortal Alliance. At this moment, after hearing the Heavenly Mandate Holy Emperor's great plan, he did not feel the absurdity of hitting a stone with an egg. Instead, he was full of enthusiasm and eager to try. It was not that Sun Erlang was shallow and ignorant, but that in these 8 years, he had personally witnessed the various changes in the Holy Dynasty, and after comparing it with the myriad Immortals alliance he had seen with his own eyes. Sun Erlang firmly believed that sooner or later, the Holy Dynasty would eliminate the myriad Immortals alliance and unify the Xuanwang realm. In the past 8 years, the population of the Dachi Holy Dynasty had increased fivefold, and the average life expectancy had soared from 40 years to 73 years. There was no longer exploitation and oppression, and everyone could read and cultivate. It was 100 times better than the rule of the saints described in the ancient books. In the past 8 years, Sun Erlang had also secretly visited the nearby small worlds. There was no difference from the past decadent Dazan dynasty. The people in some places even lived worse lives than the Dazan people. Sun Erlang felt that spreading the glory of the Holy Dynasty and the Holy Emperor to these decadent small worlds was a noble and glorious thing. So at this moment, after hearing the Holy Emperor finally express his position, Sun Erlang's heart was filled with infinite fighting spirit. There are now a total of 9 legions in Dachi. Each legion commander already had a nascent soul cultivation base. And as the commander of these legion commanders, Sun Erlang, who cultivated the open double-angle bracket sitting immortal art close double-angle bracket, was even approaching the divine transformation realm in strength. If the Holy Emperor hadn't said that his foundation was unstable and needed to accumulate for a while longer, he would probably be able to absorb the changes of heaven and earth and complete the breakthrough at this moment. Divine transformation in 8 years, Sun Erlang believed that this speed of cultivation was amazing enough even in the Xuanwang realm. Those so-called Xuanwang prodigies were not even as good as the legion commanders under him. The more he understood, the more confident Sun Erlang became in the future of the Holy Dynasty. Give you 1 year to prepare. 1 year later, the Holy Dynasty's army will depart from the holy capital and conquer the myriad worlds. Along with Li Ping's murderous declaration, on the map in front, the purple light spot representing the Xuanwang realm instantly stretched out countless purple lines. Like tentacles, they tightly bound all the small worlds of the Xuanwang realm, weaving a giant net, covering the entire Xuanwang realm map. Sun Erlang and Wang Xuanba witnessed this scene, and could not help but feel a stagnation in their breathing and a surge of emotions. With this kind of mood, Sun Erlang excitedly went down to summon the legion commanders and plan the preparations for the war. And Wang Xuanba stayed behind and accepted a secret mission from the Holy Emperor. Open black lens bracket stars returned to their positions close black lens bracket. Wang Xuanba looked at the code name of the mission, somewhat puzzled. First, go to Kangyan Sea, Yin Yin Island, and find a cultivator named Yin Shangren. Wang Xuanba muttered in his heart. There's another chapter in 15 minutes. 11:54. See through the past and present. Find Superior Yin, persuade him, and bring him back to Daki. Looking at the few words about persuasion, Wang Xuanba couldn't help but rub his head. Although he didn't quite understand the meaning of the words, it didn't prevent Wang Xuanba from firmly believing in them. With a low roar, the shadow beneath him began to slowly squirm. Soon after, a body identical to Wang Xuanba crawled out from the shadow. This was the ability he awakened after fusing and absorbing the exotic beast Shadow. The shadow body possessed half the strength of the original, and its death would not affect the original in any way. It was perfect for this kind of errand with some risk. Thinking this, Wang Xuanba's shadow body transformed into a dark swimming dragon and soared into the sky. More than 10 days later, he finally found Yin Island. The faint wails coming from the island made Wang Xuanba's heart a little hairy. He shouted a few times, but no one answered. Wang Xuanba walked into the building, and the strange and bizarre creatures he saw made his scalp tingle. These things are more disgusting than the exotic beasts I fused with. Going deeper, he finally saw the main character in front of a transparent cage. Sir, my master would like to invite you to a gathering, Wang Xuanba said humbly. Superior Yin didn't react at all. Wang Xuanba said a few more times, but it was the same. Seeing this, Wang Xuanba simply followed the Holy Emperor's instructions and said directly, Sir, would you like to know who created the immortal mortal taint? Superior Yin's body shook, and he slowly shifted his gaze from the experimental subject to Wang Xuanba. You, what did you say? The double echo made Wang Xuanba swallow. However, he still mustered his courage and repeated it. Then, without waiting for Superior Yin to speak, he said again, Sir, would you like to know the perfect foundation establishment with myself method? Superior Yin's originally hunched body slowly straightened. He stared at Wang Xuanba, a dangerous light flashing in his eyes. Who exactly are you? Wang Xuanba chuckled. I'm just an errand boy. If you want to know the answers to the questions, just come with me. Lead the way. What Wang Xuanba didn't expect was that Superior Yin would agree so readily this time. Thick mist spewed out from the cage behind him, and several mortals screamed and disappeared. Wang Xuanba's body tensed, and he quickly nodded. By the way, my master also reminded you not to forget that rib, and bring it with you. Superior Yin's eyes turned cold, and the killing intent in his eyes could no longer be concealed. However, looking at the fearless Wang Xuanba, he forcibly suppressed his killing intent. He searched his body for a while, but couldn't find the rib. In the end, he found the rib in the nest of the human hand puppy. He kicked the dog away and signaled that they could leave. Wang Xuanba then flew ahead to lead the way, passing through the formation-disguised entrance to the small world, and returned to the Daqi dynasty. He was slightly surprised by the rich spiritual energy concentration here, but Superior Yin still focused his attention on the tallest tower-shaped building in Holy Capital City. He could sense that there seemed to be an extremely powerful existence there. Soon, Superior Yin stood before Li Ping, the faceless Holy Emperor. What do you intend to achieve by bringing me here with such painstaking effort, fellow Taoist? The expression on Superior Yin's face was not very pleasant. I just admire your talent, sir, Li Ping said indifferently, sitting on the High Holy Emperor's seat and looking down at Superior Yin. Please, how about this method? Before Superior Yin could react, Li Ping clapped his hands lightly. A light curtain unfolded in front of Superior Yin. Originally, Superior Yin didn't care much, but after glancing at it and seeing the content, his expression suddenly became serious. The seriousness then turned to shock. He watched it repeatedly several times before casting his gaze towards the avatar Li Ping with some disbelief. I heard that you have a rib in your collection. Avatar Li Ping didn't explain, but instead asked again. Superior Yin nodded. It is the bone of the first cultivator in the world to be infected with the immortal mortal taint. May I have a look at it? Superior Yin hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he took it out and handed it to Li Ping. Li Fan held the rib in his hand and fell into some kind of reminiscence. Then he sighed deeply, seemingly a little lonely and sad. Then he returned the rib to Superior Yin. The performance of Avatar Li Ping made Superior Yin a little suspicious. You, seeing an old friend again, already in this state. I'm just a little emotional, don't mind it, sir. Li Ping's words fell into Superior Yin's ears, but they were like a thunderclap. What, old friend? His eyes full of suspicion, Superior Yin stared at Li Ping. Li Ping didn't take it seriously, and said in a low voice, He, besides me, who else in this world remembers him now? Profound Yellow Great Heavenly Venerate, the truly perfect person in the world. Su Bai, Mr. Bai. As he said this, a figure appeared in front of Superior Yin, instantly attracting Superior Yin's attention. The person in the picture had such a perfect appearance that it was impossible to find even the slightest flaw. His eyes were even more full of gentleness and love, and even if it was a virtual image, looking at it would make one's heart tremble. Superior Yin was lost in thought for a long time. Then, recalling what Li Ping had said, his body shook violently, and he reacted, What did you say? Profound Yellow Great Heavenly Venerate. He subconsciously clenched the rib in his hand, as if struck by lightning. His eyes were dull, and he muttered to himself, Reversing the principles of heaven and earth, reversing the principles of heaven and earth. Immortal mortal taint, dual heavenly venerates. So that's how it is. Superior Yin staggered and fell weakly to the ground. As if suffering some major blow, the whole person lost his goal, at a loss. Li Ping waited for a long time until Superior Yin slowly recovered from the shock. Then he continued to speak, revealing his true intentions. In the past, the immortal path could not be taken, and the teachings heavenly venerate as above. Sir, can you help me complete Mr. Bai's unfinished wish, to break the foundation of teachings with new methods? Save Profound Yellow from fire and water. Li Ping walked down from the imperial throne, came to Superior Yin, helped him up, and asked with utmost solemnity. Superior Yin quickly understood what Li Ping meant. Are you saying that this flawless foundation establishment with myself method is his handwriting? Superior Yin's voice trembled slightly. Li Ping nodded and sighed, yes. In the entire Profound Yellow world, who else but him could have such talent? Superior Yin's heart grew even more shocked. Yes, he kept repeating. Looking again at the characters on the light curtain in front of him, Superior Yin seemed to cross time and space through the words, and his gaze met with Mr. Bai's. My thoughts are actually in agreement with him from thousands of years ago. Moreover, he is even far superior to me. Li Fanping looked at the completely lost Superior Yin and knew that the plan had succeeded. 1155. The law is passed on by old acquaintances. Could you tell me his story? Supreme Master Yin slumped to the ground, asking somewhat dazedly. Breaking the long-lasting silence. Not long ago, Supreme Master Yin, still holding a sliver of hope, conducted the final verification experiment in the underground prison of Holy Capital City. The result was exactly as Li Ping had said. So he said nothing more, only carefully collecting Mr. Bai's ribs. Then he returned to the Holy Emperor's throne, staring blankly at Mr. Bai's image. Li Ping didn't disturb him, also staring intently at the portrait. Seeming to reminisce as well. At this moment, Supreme Master Yin's question was exactly what Li Ping wanted. He immediately recounted Mr. Bai's general life experiences. Supreme Master Yin listened with great absorption. I only knew that in the ancient profound yellow world, there were great heavenly venerates who surpassed all longevity realm cultivators. But I never imagined such a figure would sacrifice himself for mortals. Supreme Master Yin's face was filled with confusion and incomprehension. The deceased is gone, what we can do is to fulfill Mr. Bai's last wishes to comfort his spirit in heaven. The reason I founded this Holy Dynasty Rising is also for these mortals. How does the life of mortals in my dynasty compare to that of the profound yellow world in your opinion? Supreme Master Yin turned his head, his gaze seeming to sweep across all parts of the great Qi in an instant. After a moment, he nodded slightly, admitting with admiration, compared to the state of mortals being raised like cattle and horses in the profound yellow world, your place can be considered an ideal and prosperous age for mortals. My vision is to promote this system to all the small worlds of the profound yellow world, and even to the profound yellow main world. Li Ping said proudly. Supreme Master Yin looked Li Ping up and down, sighed, and did not refute. Li Ping smiled slightly. Sir, don't be discouraged, and please listen to me. The strength of the profound yellow lies in the transmission of the Dharma. The invincibility of the Dharma transmission lies in the new Dharma. If we can use the Dharma passed down by Mr. Bai to undermine the foundation of Dharma transmission. Once the Dharma transmission is resolved, the others in the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Association will be nothing more than chickens and dogs. Supreme Master Yin stared blankly at Li Ping, wondering why this cultivator, whose aura was only at the transformation god realm, spoke with such arrogance. And more importantly, Supreme Master Yin felt a strong sense of confidence from the other party. It doesn't seem like a delusion. Could this person be hiding his strength? Supreme Master Yin carefully examined Li Ping again. To undermine the foundation of Dharma transmission, I think the world needs you, sir. Li Ping did not avoid Supreme Master Yin's scrutinizing gaze, and said again with utmost sincerity. Supreme Master Yin hesitated a little. With my talent alone, I'm afraid. Li Ping leaned forward and tightly grasped Supreme Master Yin's hands. Sir, I believe in you. Li Ping's eyes were full of sincerity. If 10 years is not enough, then 100 years. If 100 years is not enough, then 1,000 years. I have waited so long, and finally waited for such a glimmer of hope, how could I easily give up? Surely you wouldn't want to disappoint Mr. Bai's expectations, would you? Supreme Master Yin trembled slightly, and subconsciously clenched his fists. Sir, just focus on researching the new Dharma, and leave all other problems to me. After such a conversation, Supreme Master Yin finally had the idea of staying here and researching the Dharma after I established my foundation. Anyway, for him, there was no limit to his lifespan. If he didn't find something he was willing to do, he would probably completely lose his self-awareness before long and assimilate with those world ghosts. After obtaining Supreme Master Yin's promise, Li Ping was overjoyed. He immediately led him to the secret space under Holy Capital City. It turned out that a large dedicated research place had already been prepared for Supreme Master Yin. I have a plan, sir, see if it is feasible. Select a large group of extremely talented ignorant teenagers, and grant them this foundation establishment with my self-dharma and then. Li Fan explained in detail the method he had used before. After pondering for a moment, Supreme Master Yin's expression became a little dignified. It may be feasible. But how exactly, it still needs to be verified in practice. Li Fan waved his hand. Children's thoughts are like wild horses. Even if they can't really stumble out a path, as long as they can give you a little inspiration, it will be enough. Supreme Master Yin was obviously not a pedantic person, and nodded in agreement with Li Fan's plan. He did not have much sympathy for the destined tragic life of these selected children. By the way, I still have something that I have always been concerned about. I want to complete it, but I have never been able to find a way. Li Ping paused, seeming a little hesitant. Supreme Master Yin glanced at Li Ping, signaling him to continue. Mr. Bai's bones are scattered all over the profound yellow world. I want to collect them and bury them. The others are easy to say, they are basically collected privately by cultivators. Only. His skull is collected by the Myriad Immortals Alliance in its headquarters museum Divine Treasure Hall. A trace of ferocity flashed in Li Ping's eyes, and he said hatefully, being pointed at by those insects of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, being visited without respect. Every time I think of this, I can't help but rush in at all costs to snatch the skull back. Unfortunately, I tried it once. There is absolutely no possibility of success. In the Divine Treasure Hall, there seems to be a hidden mysterious powerhouse. Even putting Mr. Bai's skull in the very center of the Divine Treasure Hall is also his intention. It is clearly a trap to attract people like me who value Mr. Bai very much to go. You have been to the Myriad Immortals Alliance headquarters. Supreme Master Yin was startled when he heard this. After Li Ping described all the details of the scene after entering, his eyes towards Li Ping were subtly different. I can sneak in once, and I can sneak in a second time. But only that museum Divine Treasure Hall. It's really a bit difficult. Li Ping sighed. Only then did Supreme Master Yin say, "Fellow Taoist, there is no need to be discouraged. In fact, I also had this idea back then. But after figuring out the identity of the curator of the Divine Treasure Hall, I gave up. This person is one of the 3 demon venerables of the demon race back then, and has existed since ancient times. Even the heavenly venerate of Dharma transmission was very polite to him back then." Li Ping frowned slightly. He has such strength. Mr. Bai killed these demons like slaughtering chickens and dogs. Dharma transmission is even better than Mr. Bai. With the strength and identity of Dharma transmission, why should he be polite to that demon venerable? His tone was full of doubt. Obviously Li Ping didn't believe Supreme Master Yin's words at all. Supreme Master Yin shook his head slightly. Anyway, I can be sure that Dharma transmission was indeed like that when he saw that person back then. It was completely different from his attitude towards others. Either his strength was recognized by Dharma transmission, or... Supreme Master Yin paused. They already knew each other. But that should be their first meeting. Supreme Master Yin lowered his voice. Obviously he himself was a little confused. Li Ping knew that Supreme Master Yin was the remnant soul of an old world devoured by the profound yellow world. He possessed fragments of memories from the past world, so what he saw should not be false. Emperor Sanmo was originally an elder of the beast-taming sect, belonging to the Immortal Tao 10 sect's lineage. When the 10 sects conflicted with Dharma transmission, he actually chose to stand on the side of Dharma transmission. Even more so, thousands of years later, he transformed into the curator of the Museum Divine Treasure Hall, one of the 3 highest ruling powers of the Immortal Alliance, illusory truth sage. An old acquaintance. Li Ping suddenly thought of a question. In the heavenly Dharma world, are there any demons? The profound yellow demons are all derived from Emperor Yi. Then what about the heavenly Dharma world? At the same time, Li Fan's main body, who was in the Dharma evolution jade space of the Immortal Alliance headquarters, suddenly had a faint gleam of light flashing in his eyes. Perhaps, I have to go to the fallen immortal realm again. There is only one chapter today, and there will be another chapter tomorrow during the day. My heart is beating fiercely, so I'm going to sleep early. 1156. Qingshan Shang Xiaojun. The Emperor One Beast had already led the Demon Beast clans to flee the profound yellow world, while Emperor Three Mo was deeply hidden within the Immortal Alliance headquarters, rarely seen by ordinary people. However, they both appeared during the Fallen Immortal Realm's beast-taming sect incident, so we can go and ask them directly to get a clear understanding. Fellow Taoist son, Elder Zhongshu's voice transmission interrupted Li Fan's thoughts. His attention returned to the space guarded by the derivation jade, where the little lowly was handling an urgent derivation task. She had an extra chore for no reason, and she looked puffed up with resentment on her face. The task only required a Tao integration cultivation method, but it had already taken 3 days and nights and still hadn't been derived. It was highly likely that this little ancestor was taking the opportunity to slack off. Inside the derivation space, in addition to the 3 Tao integration guardians, there was also a young man wearing a green robe. Although his body was straight and motionless, his inner anxiety could still be seen from his expression. Considering that the level of this derivation task was quite high, delays might cause some trouble. Guardian Jiangshu secretly transmitted his voice again, asking Li Fan to be the villain. Anyway, in the derivation Jade's mind, Li Fan's image had already been classified as the most hateful person in the world. There was no need to conjure a gong to remind him. When that hourglass silently appeared above the derivation Jade's head, the little Lily's face changed drastically, and the speed of the character light spheres rotating instantly doubled. Before long, she derived the cultivation method needed by the young man in green. The young man thanked her profusely and then left in a hurry. So urgent, it seems the Azure Profound Army has encountered trouble, Jiangshu sighed. After repeatedly intervening and stopping the derivation Jade's many attempts to slack off, Li Fan gradually became familiar with the other 2 Tao integration guardians. Jiangshu had entered more than 100 years earlier than Li Fan. And the other one was named Hua Yui. The name sounded a bit feminine, but he was an unadulterated tough guy. He hated evil as if it were his enemy. Because he couldn't stand the behavior of a Dharma transmitter, he actually fought with him on the spot. The consequences were predictable. Although with the help of relatives and friends, he was ultimately spared from death, he was also punished to guard the derivation Jade here for 500 years. Now, not even half the time has passed. Originally, when Li Fan first came, Hua Yui was too lazy to even say hello. Now that they were familiar, he was even more talkative than Jiangshu. Although I really dislike Shang Xiaojun's heirs, his stationing in the Devil Abyss, without leaving for hundreds of years, cannot but be admired. The Azure Profound Army. During the 2 men's chat, Li Fan also recalled the identity of the green-clad cultivator from just now. He had met him once before, and his name was Yan Huan. Shang Xiaojun's confidant, stationed in the Broken Palm Immortal City within the White Mist, responsible for guarding and suppressing the roaring abyss with the million-strong Azure Profound Army. Xiaojun's temper is even more stubborn than mine. Once he's decided on something, I'm afraid even the celestial Venerable couldn't pull him back. A rejected proposal that was denied by both the Dharma transmitters and the mirror holder, yet he still hasn't given up after so many years. Cough, cough, be careful what you say. ... Based on the bits and pieces of the 2 men's chat, coupled with some secret news he had read before, Li Fan pieced together a past event of the Immortal Alliance that had been covered up. Back then, the Immortal Alliance had once been popular with the idea of deeply exploring the White Mist domain and expanding exploration. It was somewhat different from the great exploration era that Li Fan had experienced. In that era, the exploration carried out by the Heavenly Mystery Mirror for sublimation was more like a full map scan of the White Mist, identifying all the hidden domains and secret realms within the White Mist. However, there was no in-depth exploration of the domains themselves. And the proposal that was rejected by the Dharma transmitters was to completely clear the domains. The profound yellow world's White Mist barrier appeared too strangely. And the domains in the White Mist were even more bizarre and contained countless secrets. Just what Li Fan had encountered included fragments of worlds destroyed by the chaotic word incantation, as well as the ice-sealed grand formation that reversed life and death, and giants composed of countless corpses. Putting aside the dangerous factors, Li Fan didn't believe that the myriad Immortals Alliance cultivators weren't curious about the domains. However, this curiosity was decisively suppressed by the Immortal Alliance's higher-ups. The Dharma transmitter dismembered and recreated the profound yellow world, coupled with the Immortal Alliance's high-levels consistent behavior, it's clear that these domains in the White Mist are inseparable from him. Li Fan remembered that when he was in the White Mist, he could always hear wails and murmurs similar to the celestial physicians in his ears. And following the sensation of the sound, he could always discover unknown domains. Li Fan suddenly had a guess. These domains should be the same as the Kanyan Sea and the Loyan continent, fragments of the former heavenly law realm. However, perhaps because they were affected by disasters such as the chaotic word incantation, their remaining laws are more distorted and chaotic. They are not suitable for direct integration with the profound yellow world. So they are secretly hidden in the White Mist first. Perhaps there are remnants of other immortal cultivation worlds as well. The Dharma transmitter is waiting for the moment when the heavenly law realm successfully borrows a corpse to revive its soul. After all, his attainments had not yet reached the level of a Dharma transmitter, and Li Fan could not yet guess the specific uses of these world fragments. However, this has given me inspiration. Although the Dharma transmitter Celestial Venerable can cover the sky with one hand, the profound yellow world cultivators are still suspicious of the various drastic changes brought about by his transformation of the world. Perhaps I can induce them to discover the truth. Li Fan knew that the more forbidden something was, the more it could arouse people's curiosity. When these cultivators discovered the huge conspiracy behind it that might involve the Dharma transmitter Celestial Venerable, whether they were willing or not, they had already become Li Fan's allies. Sheng Xiaojun, let's start with him. Li Fan nodded slightly, hiding the faint light in his eyes. Heavenly Sword Sect Ruins, Sword Tomb. The holy embryo Li Fan was sitting cross-legged beside the black sword, sensing the myriad sword dows hovering around him. Although he had once used the black sword, a heavenly wonder, to build his Tao foundation, at this moment, within this sword tomb, surrounded by countless swords, the holy embryo Li Fan still had new insights constantly arising in his heart. Heavenly wonder is the manifestation of heavenly Tao laws. The world changes, and the laws flow. They are not immutable. The time note at which I came here to collect the black sword is different, and the sword Taos that are born also have subtle differences. The holy embryo Li Fan was delighted in his heart. His understanding of the world's operation has improved further. Feeling something in his heart, he let out a long roar, and the tens of millions of swords on the ground also trembled slightly. And in the center of the myriad swords, the wooden sword left by Mr. Bai actually bent slightly. It seemed to have resonated somewhat with the holy embryo Li Fan's insights. Good. The holy embryo Li Fan's mouth opened slightly, and the black sword soared into the sky, directly entering his abdomen and transforming into his own Tao foundation. There is one more chapter to be posted around 1 o'clock. I originally wanted to make up for it, but my body has a problem, and my brain is turning very slowly like it's rusted. ORZ. 1157. One sword suppresses the devil sound. This time, taking the Heaven's Wonder was successful because holy embryo Li Fan had already been recognized in advance. Therefore, the wooden sword did not stop him. The profound aura contained within the wooden sword slowly disappeared. A mysterious fluctuation slowly emerged from holy embryo Li Fan's body. The Xuanwang sword Tao completed its transfer at this moment. Amidst the countless rusty swords in the sword tomb bending to see him off, holy embryo Li Fan slowly departed. Possessing Heaven's Wonder allows direct entry into the Tao harmonization realm. The foundation of the sword Tao, the sword's techniques, the sword transforming into a celestial cave. And Li Fan, whose main body had already reached the deity transformation stage, instantly understood the path that the holy embryo was about to take. The Xuanwang sword Tao's own transformation. After that, he only needs to completely fuse the Heaven's Wonder with himself, which is equivalent to devouring and completely mastering the power of the heavenly laws. He will then achieve the Tao harmonization Immortal Venerable. Compared to ordinary new law cultivators, it is indeed much easier. But as a price, it almost completely cuts off the possibility of proving the Tao and achieving immortality through defying reason. It's like how Mr. Bai, as the Xuanwang Great Heavenly Lord, rebelled against the heavenly principles he controlled. Even if he were talented enough to succeed in defying reason, he would definitely not escape the backlash from the heavens and earth. The day of proving the Tao will be the day of his fall. Thoughts surged in holy embryo Li Fan's mind, and his realm also climbed step by step. When he left the sword tomb, he had only just entered the foundation establishment stage. But by the time he left Tianyu Prefecture, holy embryo Li Fan had already advanced to the golden core stage. And when holy embryo Li Fan appeared outside the white mist barrier hiding the roaring abyss, he had already entered the nascent soul stage. Without deliberate absorption, without the slightest hindrance, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged and spontaneously entered holy embryo Li Fan's body, transforming into a ladder for steady advancement. This is the benefit of being recognized by the heavenly Tao. And this is just the Tao of the sword. If it were the entire Xuanwang heavenly Tao, it's truly unimaginable. No wonder Mr. Bai was able to advance to the deity transformation stage in one step and instantly achieve immortality. With Heaven's Wonder in his body, cultivation no longer requires seeking external objects. In addition, with the active cooperation of the general trend of heaven and earth, the speed of holy embryo Li Fan's cultivation could no longer be measured by common sense. Sword Tao fluctuations spread around, forcing back the soul-devouring white mist. Holy embryo Li Fan transformed into a sword light and headed straight for the Broken Palm Immortal City. When he faintly heard countless wails like those of fierce ghosts, holy embryo Li Fan had already become the same as his main body, at the deity transformation realm. However, after breaking through to deity transformation, his understanding of the evolution of his own sword Dao was still lacking. This led to a sudden slowdown in the progress of his cultivation. Further research and refinement in this life will lead to even faster progress if I start over later. Halt! A violent shout interrupted holy embryo Li Fan's thoughts. At the same time, a figure blocked Li Fan's path. Wearing cyan scale armor, holding a heavy halberd, pointing it at Li Fan from afar. Who are you? How dare you trespass on the eternal immortal fortress? The heavily armored cultivator's tone was unkind. Li Fan narrowed his eyes slightly and recognized the voice. In the 114th life, he was ordered to build the Heavenly Zon Spirit Locking Formation in the white mist outside the eternal immortal fortress. Later, the roaring abyss suddenly changed, and the Joshu outpost where he was located lost contact with the immortal city. Seeing that supplies were about to run out, Li Fan reversed his Dao heart and returned to the immortal city alone from the outpost, seeking rescue. Although he encountered some twists and turns along the way and strayed into the Chaos Word Maze domain. But in the end, he escaped without any danger. Finally, before his lifespan ran out, he rushed back to Broken Palm Immortal City at his limit. He originally had several decades of life left, but at the last moment, a violent shout of, "Who goes there?" stopped him. Li Fan was forced to explain the reason, which delayed him for some time. Finally, when he returned to the Immortal City, he was already exhausted and did not have much time to live. HMPH. Holy embryo Li Fan glanced at the other party indifferently, without explaining. He simply used his finger as a sword and gently pointed it forward. The white mist that seemed to have existed since ancient times was instantly split apart. The wails from the roaring abyss were suppressed by the clear sword cries. The bright white sword light illuminated the world. The eternal immortal fortress, built with the ancient heavenly lord's severed palm as material, and the terrifying abyss filled with baleful aura. At this moment, they were all exposed in holy embryo Li Fan's sword light, with every detail visible. The mighty sword light passed through the figure blocking Li Fan's path, crossed Broken Palm Immortal City, and fiercely pierced into the roaring abyss. Heaven and earth were silent. As if captured by this shocking sword, the sound of wailing in the abyss did not reappear for a long time. Until the white mist slowly gathered, the torn wound healed, and the abyss was once again hidden under the white mist. The murmuring, miserable wails gradually reappeared. But compared to the previous scale, it was far from the same. Perhaps fearing a loud noise would once again attract Li Fan's sword. Returning to their senses from the shock, the Qingshan army and the eternal immortal fortress all focused their attention on Li Fan's location. Everyone was silent. It was as if even the thick white mist could not hide the figure like a sword immortal. No one understood the horror of those demonic sounds better than the Qingshan army, who guarded the abyss day and night. But at this moment, 10,000 demonic sounds were all suppressed by one sword. What kind of cultivation was this? The Qingshan army was dazed and their minds were blank. Holy embryo Li Fan stood with his hands behind his back, quietly looking ahead. The cyan-scaled heavy armor cultivator in front of him had long since become like a stone statue. Facing Li Fan's sword head-on, although the sword light did not hurt him, it had already been deeply engraved in his mind. From now on, he would no longer tolerate anything other than this sword light. He was like an idiot, and would not react to the outside world. But conversely, if he could comprehend Li Fan's sword and absorb it into his own understanding, this sword would also be a great fortune for him in the nascent soul realm. Even without resources to advance, he could kill enemies beyond his level with this sword alone. For Li Fan today, there was no need to retaliate against everyone who had offended him in the past. If he happened to meet them again, giving them a lesson would be enough. Holy embryo Li Fan's sword was mainly a demonstration to force out the lord of the Qingshan army, Shang Xiaojun. After all, only by showing his strength first could he better discuss what was to come. Sure enough, facing Li Fan, who stood in the air in the white mist, none of the Qingshan army dared to step forward to greet him. After a moment, the white mist fluctuated in waves. A very strange figure, constantly swaying like the surface of water, appeared in front of Li Fan. Good sword, Taoist friend. I have guarded the roaring abyss for many years, but I never thought that such a person would appear in the world. Shang Xiaojun stared at Li Fan. What is the purpose of Taoist friend's visit here? Li Fan pointed to the roaring abyss not far below and said with a smile, The demonic sounds are noisy and annoying. I want to enter the abyss with my sword and eliminate the demonic sounds forever. I wonder if Xiaojun is willing to accompany me. Holy embryo Li Fan's eyes were sincere and very earnest. 1158. Single-handedly destroys the devil tide. Are you willing to join me? Li Fan's voice was as mighty as thunder, piercing through the white mist, even temporarily suppressing the wails from the depths of despair, constantly echoing within the eternal fortress. Feeling the gazes of countless azure profound army soldiers gathering upon him, Shang Xiaojun's constantly fluctuating figure calmed down, revealing his original appearance. Dressed in a green robe, his clothes fluttering, his figure tall and slender. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. Shang Xiaojun stared at Li Fan. Fellow Taoist is perhaps a little too arrogant. Although your sword is sharp, it may not necessarily be able to withstand the terrifying tide of demonic sound. Yet you dare to dream of eternally suppressing the abyss. How would you know without trying? I think you, Xiaojun, have been guarding outside the abyss for too long, and your courage has been worn away. The holy infant Li Fan did not yield in the slightest, confronting him tit for tat. HMPH, merely skilled with words. In an instant, it seemed as if thousands of shadows appeared on Shang Xiaojun's body. He himself seemed to have hidden within this dark tide, secretly spying on Li Fan, ready to launch a fatal blow at any moment. And the holy infant Li Fan felt as if he was surrounded by thousands of troops, even having the illusion of facing the depths of despair alone. There are rumors within the Immortal Alliance that the demonic sound of the abyss is beneficial to Shang Xiaojun's cultivation, so he is willing to guard this place, never leaving for 100 years. Now it seems that it is indeed true. Back when he was still in the Foundation establishment realm, Li Fan had experienced the terror of the abyss's demonic sound up close. And at this moment, Shang Xiaojun was like a freely walking abyss, ready to erupt with a tide of demonic sound at any time. Above the holy infant Li Fan's head, a simple and unadorned black long sword suddenly appeared. The tip of the sword pointed directly at Shang Xiaojun. Even with millions of demonic sounds assailing him, the moment he was locked on by the sword's edge, a sense of crisis arose in Shang Xiaojun's heart. He seemed to see, behind the black sword, countless swords filling the sky like rain, all pointing at him. Where did this expert come from? Shang Xiaojun's heart was somewhat heavy. The two confronted each other in the void, a great battle about to break out. At this critical moment, a strange wave came from not far from them. At first, there were a few rustling, sharp tearing sounds like an autumn wind. And then, it was like the rapid hooves of horses passing by, erupting suddenly like a storm. It was like the Avachi hell, where 10,000 ghosts cried together. It was also like the despairing wails echoing in the world before the arrival of the apocalypse. The white mist was stirred, constantly tumbling. And the broken palm Immortal city was even more like a small boat at sea, shaking non-stop, in imminent danger. Demonic sound tide. It seemed that due to the suppression of Li Fan's sword light just now, it had aroused the backlash of the power of the depths of despair. The intensity and scale of this demonic sound tide far exceeded usual. The eternal fortress, directly impacted by the tide, was like a leaf on a branch, likely to be blown away at any time. Shang Xiaojun's expression changed drastically. No longer caring about Li Fan, his figure flashed and returned to the broken palm Immortal city. With Shang Xiaojun's presence, the azure light circled and lingered, and the eternal fortress slowly stabilized in the demonic sound tide. Just as the azure profound army soldiers were still in shock, they were horrified to discover that Li Fan, who they thought had disappeared in the demonic sound tide, was still standing quietly in the void at this moment. Even if the surrounding demonic sound was Dao Tian, and the white mist churned, he remained unmoved. And then, Li Fan did something that no one expected. He strolled leisurely, like a wanderer, and came outside the broken palm Immortal city. Facing the endless depths of despair, Li Fan sat cross-legged. A black long sword appeared beneath him at the right time. Li Fan bent his right finger and gently tapped the sword's body. Ding! The crisp sound, even in the demonic sound frenzy, was so prominent. The sound of the sword echoed, and at the same time, countless different sword shadows appeared behind Li Fan. The sword shadows stretched, like a great wall, blocking in front of the broken palm Immortal city. 10,000 swords like a forest, all pointing to the abyss. The demonic sound penetrates the brain, but he is not affected at all. How did he do it? Sitting in front of the city, what is he doing? This shocking scene made millions of Azure Profound Army soldiers lose their minds. Even Shang Xiaojun was shocked and stood up abruptly, looking at Li Fan's back outside the city. If the demonic sound tide was a continuous, surging, and violent Daotian wave, then Li Fan at this moment was a giant rock standing on the seashore. Steadfast and unyielding, unmoved in all directions. No matter how rampant the demonic sound was, it could not hurt him in the slightest. And Li Fan's performance had just begun. Go! Before the tide, Li Fan whispered softly. From the great wall built by 10,000 sword shadows behind him, a sword suddenly flew out. Just like the earth-shattering sword light that Li Fan had wielded before, it roared directly towards the demonic sound tide. In the face of the surging demonic sound tide, the sword light gradually dimmed. But the Azure Profound Army soldiers in the Broken Palm Immortal City clearly felt that the power of the demonic sound tide was weakened by that sword light. Could it be? A thought could not help but emerge in their minds. Everyone in the Immortal City could not help but tremble slightly. Then, a scene that they would never forget appeared. 10,000 flying swords, one after another, charged towards the depths of despair without hesitation. Countless sword lights flickered one after another, completely illuminating the eternal fortress. Each attack weakened the demonic sound tide by a few points. The terrifying wailing sound appearing in everyone's ears also slowly became weak and powerless. The huge Immortal City was silent. Everyone was silently watching Li Fan's back. There was no room for any other thoughts. Like the end of a heavy rain, the sky cleared after the rain. Outside the Immortal City, there was no more demonic sound. And the sword light behind Li Fan was still so much. Endless and inexhaustible. That Lord. Perhaps what he said before about eternally suppressing the abyss is not impossible. This thought emerged in the minds of the Azure Profound Army soldiers at the same time. With his back to the Broken Palm Immortal City, Li Fan did not get up. The Azure Profound Army soldiers also seemed to be frozen, not daring to move at all. The sword blocks the demonic sound tide, and the Xuanwang sword Dao's recognition of me has deepened a lot. The holy infant Li Fan was actually comprehending the changes happening to him. Sure enough, the Xuanwang heavenly Dao still instinctively rejects these foreign objects. If one can follow the will of heaven, one will receive corresponding favor from the heavenly Dao. Thinking like this, Li Fan slowly stood up, turned around, and looked at the countless cultivators in the eternal fortress. Smiling, he asked, "Does Xiaojun still think I am arrogant?" The Immortal City was silent. After a while, Shang Xiaojun's figure reappeared in front of Li Fan. He bowed slightly and sighed in admiration. "I was wrong. Fellow Taoist's talent is rare in this world." Just as he was about to say something, Li Fan waved his hand and interrupted him. "So, Xiaojun, are you willing to join me?" Li Fan asked again. Seeing this, Shang Xiaojun gritted his teeth and replied helplessly, "Since that's the case, I will risk my life to accompany you." With Xiaojun's words, a shocking cheer erupted in the Broken Palm Immortal City. Only one chapter today. 1159. Nirvana destroys the abscess. The Qingshan army had been stationed in the Howling Abyss for far too long. Some had even been born there and never left until their deaths. Family, friends, everything they knew bloomed and withered within the eternal fortress. The vast majority of the Qingshan army had only heard tales of the beauty of the true Xuanwang world through the heavenly Zan mirror. They had never truly seen it with their own eyes. And the terror of the Howling Abyss made it impossible for them to even dream of leaving one day. But now, Li Fan's appearance brought a glimmer of hope to their endless, bleak lives. With the two adults joining forces, perhaps we can truly eliminate the demonic sound forever. The Qingshan army cheered, their eyes fixed on Li Fan and Shang Xiaojun, who stood outside the abyss, filled with hope. "The cruelest thing in the world is to give hope and then crush it," Shang Xiaojun said with a sigh, glancing back at the expressions on his generals' faces. "I only agreed to your request just now because I was forced by the situation. But in reality, I'm not optimistic," he transmitted. "The real headache with the Howling Abyss isn't just the demonic sound. Otherwise, any law transmitter from the Immortal Alliance could easily suppress it. What the Immortal Alliance's higher-ups are worried about is the distorted Tao of world destruction from the bottom of the abyss. It's like a wound. If you break it open, pus will flow out and infect the Xuanwang world." Forced into a corner, Shang Xiaojun had no choice but to reveal the reason why the Immortal Alliance only guarded the abyss instead of eliminating the problem permanently. The demonic sound is just a symptom. If you want to truly eliminate it, you must deal with the wound while suppressing the sound. Shang Xiaojun had originally hoped that these words would dissuade Li Fan from dragging him to the bottom of the abyss. But he didn't expect that after hearing his explanation, the other party wouldn't be surprised at all, as if he had known the truth about the howling abyss all along. He even smiled slightly and asked, "The demonic sound is a symptom, and the wound is also a symptom. The Xuanwang heavenly Tao flows, with constant birth and death. If it were an ordinary world wound, it would heal in 100 years at most. But the howling abyss has been raging for hundreds of years. Yet it still shows no sign of stopping, and is instead getting worse. Aren't you curious about this, Xiaojun?" Shang Xiaojun was stunned by these words. "You?" He looked at Li Fan with a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. He had originally thought that Li Fan was a powerful cultivator filled with enthusiasm, but now it seemed. "My identity is not important. What's important is you, Xiaojun. Aren't you curious about everything in the White Mist domain and the strange attitude of the myriad Immortals alliance back then?" Shang Xiaojun's expression changed. "Are you from the Five Elders Council?" Li Fan shook his head. "I'm just a sincere person who doesn't want to see the truth buried." Then Li Fan sat down again with his sword across his lap. "I will wait here for 3 days. After 3 days, I will enter the abyss with my sword. As for whether you are willing to come with me, Xiaojun, I won't force you." Shang Xiaojun remained silent. His figure rippled like water and disappeared. 3 days passed in a flash. During this time, Li Fan remained at the mouth of the abyss. Whenever the demonic sound reappeared, he easily extinguished it with his sword light. The Qingshan army in the Eternal Fortress all admired Li Fan's back. Many intelligent people even recorded the images of Li Fan using his sword light to destroy the demons. They studied them repeatedly. Some even gained insights and greatly improved their strength. The time agreed upon by both parties had arrived, and Saint Infant Li Fan did not hesitate in the slightest. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he got up and slowly walked towards the interior of the howling abyss. He had no intention of waiting for Shang Xiaojun at all. Seeing that Li Fan was about to set off alone, whispers inevitably arose within the Eternal Fortress. After all, no matter how high Shang Xiaojun's prestige was before, if he didn't react to this matter, his image would collapse irretrievably. These Qingshan army soldiers were his direct subordinates, cultivated over 100 years. If he lost their sincere support, it would definitely be a very painful loss for Shang Xiaojun. With Shang Xiaojun's strength, even if he couldn't suppress the demonic sound by going deep into the howling abyss, he would at most be slightly injured. There would be no problem in saving his life. So Li Fan was certain that Shang Xiaojun would appear. Even if it was just to put on a show behind him. Sure enough, just as Li Fan stepped into the howling abyss without hesitation, Shang Xiaojun's figure appeared at the right time. "Farewell, Lord," the Qingshan army cheered in unison, their voices like thunder, then abruptly ceased after Li Fan completely entered the abyss. "The last time I set foot here was almost 300 years ago," Shang Xiaojun's voice sounded from behind. Li Fan didn't respond, but simply observed his surroundings. The situation was somewhat similar to that of the netherworld. Endless darkness that made one's heart palpitate. The difference was that there were continuous dark red bands of light in the darkness, like the flowing blood of some ancient beast. From these blood-colored bands of light, ash-like substances floated out from time to time. Li Fan reached out and grabbed a piece. The stench of decay instantly began to corrode his entire body through the point of contact. In just a few breaths, Saint Infant Li Fan's body turned into the same ash-like substance. A sword light cut through the darkness, and Li Fan was reborn from his inner world. These embers are the result of being contaminated by the distorted and destroyed Tao of the world. This is only the outermost part of the abyss. The deeper you go, the greater the degree of distortion. It can even contaminate and destroy the origin of our cultivation, Shang Xiaojun reminded him through voice transmission. What he meant by the origin of cultivation was the foundation establishment item, the core formation cave, and so on. If these foundations of the new method were not destroyed, cultivators could be reborn continuously. But if even they were damaged, then the cultivator would naturally perish as well. In addition to that, you also need to worry about the sudden outbreak of the demonic sound tide. The demonic sound outside the abyss is a completely different concept from the demonic sound inside the abyss. Back then, I prided myself on my strong will, but I couldn't last even a few breaths before I was almost driven mad by those terrifying whispers. Shang Xiaojun chattered on, but Li Fan turned a deaf ear, resolutely flying towards the bottom of the abyss. Wherever he passed, sword lights flashed, and all the continuous, wandering dark red blood shadows were annihilated. Shang Xiaojun stared for a while and noticed that those foreign objects showed no signs of rebirth, and couldn't help but be secretly surprised. This is the sword of annihilation. Wherever the sword light reaches, everything turns to nothingness. Li Fan's voice suddenly rang in his ear. The festering wound only needs to be cut clean, he said indifferently. As for those demonic sounds, I have a supreme secret technique that I can teach you to keep you safe. 1160. Xuanwang Rebirth Technique. Supreme Secret Art. When Shang Xiaojun heard these 4 words, he was still somewhat dismissive. After all, given his status and position, he had even entered the treasure vault left behind by the heavenly venerate who spread the Dharma back then. Yet, even within that vault, no divine ability or secret art dared to call itself supreme. His strength is great, but his foundation is a bit shallow after all. Shang Xiaojun thought to himself. But after he read 2 or 3 sentences of the text the other party transmitted, his expression suddenly changed, becoming serious in an instant. And by the time he had read more than half of the passage, his mind was buzzing, and he was completely stunned. Though through myriad tribulations, the heart remains unchanged. Although he didn't know the name of this secret art, there was no doubt that this was a true profound technique, surpassing all methods he currently knew. It truly deserved the title of supreme. What shocked Shang Xiaojun even more was that such a secret art, which would undoubtedly cause countless brutal battles if placed in the Xuanwang realm, was actually given to him so easily by the other party. It was as if it were a foundation establishment cultivation method that could be obtained at will. Just what? Shang Xiaojun suddenly looked up at Li Fan, who was diligently clearing the abyss pustules along the way, his heart filled with inexplicable shock. But Li Fan never showed any intention of explaining his identity, and Shang Xiaojun didn't dare to press him. He could only honestly follow behind, while secretly cultivating that supreme method. This method was calm, peaceful, vast, and upright. There was no need to worry about any hidden traps within it. And Shang Xiaojun quickly truly felt its power. In the dark abyss, countless dark red, blood vessel networks, suddenly lit up. Like a continuous mountain fire, the light flickered. Along with the appearance of these blood-red lights, the interior of the abyss also seemed to suddenly begin to contract. Space was being squeezed, and sounds of destruction from eons ago, difficult to describe in words, spread from those suddenly extinguished blood-red lights. Shang Xiaojun's eyes were instantly filled with illusions. He seemed to see world after world being tragically destroyed. Cultivators wailed in despair. Even heaven and earth themselves had reached their end. Above the sky, countless black fissures dismembered the firmament. The earth cracked, and crimson magma erupted from the abyss. Countless fireballs fell, igniting raging infernos. A faint blue wind blew, freezing everything in the world. Scene after scene of doomsday played out in Shang Xiaojun's mind. Even though he prided himself on being a favored son of heaven, facing such terrifying, immersive scenes, he couldn't help but tremble and feel great fear in his heart. However, unlike before, as that supreme secret art automatically circulated, an extremely cold aura instantly spread throughout his body. Shang Xiaojun was thus freed from the boundless fear. Although those world-destroying illusions were still vivid, Shang Xiaojun's mind was completely clear. Without worry, without fear. Like a passerby, observing with cold eyes. Though through hundreds of thousands of tribulations, its heart remains immortal. This is indeed a supreme divine technique. Shang Xiaojun's state of mind was somewhat strange at this moment. Under the blessing of the cultivation method, it was clearly a great joyous occasion, yet his mind remained undisturbed. Instead, he was filled with doubts about Li Fan, who had bestowed such a divine technique upon him. There are only a few places in the Xuanwang realm that could have a secret art inheritance of this level. He's not from our Myriad Immortals Alliance, nor is he from the Five Elders Association. Could it be that he's from another destroyed immortal cultivation world? Shang Xiaojun knew that there were refugees from other worlds in the Xuanwang realm. However, these people usually hid themselves very deeply, and even the Myriad Immortals Alliance couldn't fully know about them. What is his true purpose for coming to the Roaring Abyss? While helping Li Fan suppress and eliminate the demonic sounds, Shang Xiaojun pondered. In the Roaring Abyss, the outbreak of demonic sounds was not continuous. After passing through one wave of demonic sounds, the interior of the abyss became quiet again. And Li Fan and Shang Xiaojun also discovered some remnants of the demonic sound wave in the darkness. They were somewhat similar to the previous ash-like substance, but they lacked that evil, twisted corrosive aura. Does Xiaojun know what this is? Li Fan suddenly asked. Shang Xiaojun observed for a while, then shook his head slightly. This is the remnant of the fusion of different worlds. Before, Xiaojun said that the abyss's demonic sounds were the twisted Tao of destroyed worlds. In fact, that is not the case. The Xuanwang realm is a complete, vast, and prosperous immortal cultivation world. How could it be easily encroached upon by other destroyed immortal cultivation worlds? Even if there were the Tao of destruction from other worlds, it wouldn't manifest as demonic sounds of that scale. The key is here, in this wound of the Xuanwang realm. The place where the Tao of the destroyed world connects with the Xuanwang heavenly Tao. Li Fan explained to Shang Xiaojun while observing the interior of the roaring abyss. The laws of the destroyed world have transformed into the laws of the Xuanwang realm itself. It's like drawing blood from one body and transferring it to another. Here, two different heavenly Taos collide. The Xuanwang heavenly Tao naturally emerges victorious, but Li Fan suddenly fell silent. He had half a sentence unsaid. The essence of the heavenly Tao is also slowly being changed in this process. Is this the method of the heavenly physician? Dismembering world fragments, grafting and stitching. Transporting the old world's heavenly Tao, subtly changing the nature of the heavenly Tao. Minimizing the side effects of the fusion. Li Fan seemed to see that deep within the white mist barriers scattered throughout the Xuanwang realm, there were countless existences like the roaring abyss. Under their combined transformation, the Xuanwang realm was silently undergoing a gradual metamorphosis. A grand and precise surgery. Li Fan couldn't help but praise in his heart. If it weren't for the open double-angle bracket record of mending heaven close double-angle bracket given by the heavenly physician, even if Li Fan cultivated to the Tao integration and longevity realms, he probably wouldn't have the ability to detect these things happening to the Xuanwang realm. Just like the current Shang Xiaojun, even after Li Fan's guidance, he still couldn't comprehend the hidden truth for a while. To test them in this world, I cannot be timid. Since I am here, I will first destroy one place and see how they react. Li Fan's eyes flickered. Behind him, thousands of sword shadows appeared, suddenly accelerating and rushing towards the interior of the abyss. Shang Xiaojun, who was still in a daze, quickly followed. The deeper they went, the shallower the degree of interweaving and fusion of the laws of different worlds became. The collision of heavenly Taos, even between destroyed worlds, was not something ordinary cultivators could withstand. Turbulent fluctuations swept through the darkness like a fierce wind. Shang Xiaojun, who was in the Tao integration realm, even felt that the spirit of heaven and earth he had refined was in danger of being disintegrated. Tao integration cultivators here are like small boats in the rain, or flickering candles in the wind, unable to maintain themselves. Shang Xiaojun looked at Li Fan again, his heart full of confusion. Clearly, the other party's realm was not as high as his own, yet in the fluctuations caused by the collision of different world laws, he could still remain so calm and composed. What realm is he in exactly?